A very, very good evening to all of you. And I'm Ridma Bhatia. We have been discussing PGBP, basically how to compute income from PGBP, some of a very, very important chapter throughout your intermediate and final. So I hope you are having fun and understanding what we have done up till now. We have covered the reductions before 36, as in till 35. One our list we have covered. Now we'll start with section 36. Rather in the previous class, we did section 36 ka some deductions. I'll quickly revise them for you. And then we can proceed with section 36, subsection 1, clause 3A. In your exam, if you are remembering section 36, subsection 1, that is also more than enough. Yes, but you should know which all types of deductions fall under section 36. That is very important. So, shall we begin? Any doubt from the previous class? What all was covered in the last class? उसमें से किसी को कोई doubt है? I hope you are doing the questions which we discussed. Yeah.
Ma'am, regarding illustration 9.
Illustration 9, just 1 second, I'll jump to illustration 9.
Yeah.
Good evening, Ginny. Sir, is the Zoom chat open for the doubt or it would be only viewers portal? Can you please confirm? Meanwhile, I'll go to the illustration 9. Sorry? So they can ask the query anywhere, right? Okay. So everyone, I hope it's a good news. So now you can ask your query wherever you feel like, either on the POS portal or through Zoom. Illustration number 9. Yes, Vignesh, was it your query if I'm not wrong?
Yes, ma'am, it's my query. Ma'am,
Hanji.
you said that when we transfer an asset, asset from, am I audible? Hello?
Yes.
When we transfer an asset from specific business to a non-specific business, you said the asset should be recorded net of the depreciation, net of the PGB income and depreciation, right, ma'am?
Correct.
While calculating the depreciation, why are we not considering the second year?
So second year mein the depreciation is being given to the other unit, no? He transferred it. See, forget about this. Just think about from the perspective of a basic transfer also. When a basic transfer is happening of depreciation, the entire year depreciation goes away, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the same logic here also.
Oh. Okay,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay.
Got
Okay,
it? But very good question.
Thank you.
Any other doubt? Mamta, Ajit, Ginny? Yeah, Ginny.
Ma'am, in question number 8 that you have given for homework,
Question 8 or illustration 8?
question है ma'am.
Page number, can you please help me with that?
एक minute ma'am. Page number 3.204.
Okay, yes. Question number 8.
मैम इसके अंदर लिखा हुआ है कि उन्होंने मशीनरी परचेज यानी लाइसेंस ऑब्टेन की इसको, है ना, जो कि है 10 साल के लिए 31/3/32 तक है ना, और 27 लाख पेमेंट है जिसको उन्होंने 3 इंस्टॉलमेंट में, जो कि 9 लाख की इंस्टॉलमेंट है, वो उसमें पे किया है। तो और इन्होंने, लेकिन कमेंसमेंट डेट है बिजनेस की 1/4/23, है ना, तो फिर जो कैलकुलेशन है वो जो डिडक्शन अलाउड होगा वो तो कमेंसमेंट डेट से ही अलाउड होगा ना?
Just 1 second. Let me just check. And I'll share it for everyone. So everyone, we are discussing question number 8. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes.
Easy Call ने क्या किया? They provided telecom services in Mumbai, obtained a license on 1st April 2022 for a period of 10 years ending on 31st March 32. Okay. Against a fee of 27 lakh to be paid in 3 installments of 9 lakhs each by April 22, April 23, April 24. Okay. The company commenced the business on 1st April 23. Now, explain how the payment made for the license fee shall be dealt under the Income Tax Act. Okay. So यहाँ
ना?
पे हाँ जी, मैं इसको यहाँ पे शेयर करती हूँ. Yes, yes, जिनी, carry on.
तो मैम जो अपना डिडक्शन है वो एज पर 33A सॉरी सेक्शन भूल गई.
हाँ हाँ, डोंट वरी, मैं भी याद कर रही हूँ साथ साथ. 33, नो 33 नहीं, 35.
35A आई थिंक.
हम्म.
तो उसमें यानी कमेंसमेंट जब बिजनेस होता है तब से डिडक्शन अलाउड होता है, लेकिन जब मैंने कैलकुलेशन किया तो मैंने कमेंसमेंट डेट से अलाउड किया डिडक्शन. बट जो मैंने सॉल्यूशन चेक किया तो उसमें 22-23 भी कंसीडर किया हुआ है, उसमें भी 9 लाख, और उसमें 9 इयर्स के लिए ही किया हुआ है, 2 बार 9 इयर्स शो किया है. तो मुझे कुछ समझ.
मैं आपको इजीली समझाती हूँ. तो यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन है तो बिजनेस कब स्टार्ट किया इन्होंने?
1 अप्रैल 2023 कमेंसमेंट.
1 अप्रैल 2023 से.
यस मैम.
ओके.
एंड आंसर के अंदर 22-23 भी कंसीडर किया
यहाँ
है,
पे
बट
नोट नहीं हो पा रहा ना, मैं इसको उसी पे लेके जा रहा हूँ. 1 सेकेंड. स्क्रीन. सबने facts of the question पढ़ ली. Facts of the question में license is obtained on 1 April 2022 for the period of 10 years. Obtain 1 April 2022 से किया है and 3 installments में pay होना है 9 lakhs each. ठीक है, by April 22, April 23 and April 24. So एक पेमेंट हुआ 22-23 में, राइट? एक पेमेंट हुआ 23-24 में एंड एक पेमेंट हुआ 24-25 में, राइट? अब वो पेमेंट उनका 9 लाख ईच हुआ है 22, 23, 24, 25 में. बट हमें उससे क्या लेना देना, हमें टोटल लाइफ के बेसिस पे डिडक्शन देना होता है, करेक्ट?
ओके मैम. अच्छा, टोटल लाइफ के बेस पे, यानी कि फिर तो 22-23 भी कंसीडर किया जाएगा इसीलिए.
नहीं नहीं नहीं, सुनो सुनो, यहाँ पे स्टार्ट कब से हो रहा है? 1 April 2023 से. तो
यस
आपको,
मैम.
आपके पास लाइफ कितनी बची टू क्लेम द डिडक्शन? 23 से लेके 31 मार्च, कैलकुलेट
30.
लगाए, 31 मार्च 2032 तक, राइट? Which is how many years?
9 इयर्स.
तो उस हिसाब से आपका पेमेंट मेड फॉर द लाइसेंस फी शैल बी डेल्ट अंडर द इनकम टैक्स एंड अमाउंट ऑफ एनी डिडक्टेबल. इसमें और तो कुछ है नहीं, तो मेरे हिसाब से 27 lakhs डिवाइड बाय 9 होना चाहिए, विच विल कम टू 3 lakhs. अब यहाँ पे सोल्यूशन में देखते हैं क्या है. स्क्रीन दिख रहा है सबको? अच्छा, मैंने दूसरी स्क्रीन शेयर कर दी, सॉरी. Obtained a license on 20 April 2022 against a fee of 27 lakh to be paid in 3 installments of 9 lakhs each by April 22, 23, 24. Fine. इससे हमें कोई लेना देना नहीं है. The company has commenced business on 1 April 2023. So 1 April 2023 से 31 March 2032 तक 9 years हो. So technically for the previous year 24-25 3 lakhs का installment बना. Now आपके आंसर में क्या दिया? Let's see. यहाँ पे लिखा है, द पेमेंट एज पर सेक्शन एनी अमाउंट एक्चुअली पेड फॉर लाइसेंस शैल बी डिडक्शन एज इक्वल इंस्टॉलमेंट. 3 lakhs होना चाहिए इसका बेसिक लॉजिक से हिसाब से. बट व्हाट दे हैव डन इज, लेट्स सी. या जी, स्पीक स्पीक. आपका, यू हैव रेज्ड योर हैंड ना?
एक्चुअली मैं लोअर हैंड करना भूल गई।
अच्छा, okay, they have followed this approach. Technically, this is not right. This is questionable. इन्होंने क्या किया है, ये तो यहाँ पे नोट नहीं कर सकते. Okay, so what they have done is they took it कि फर्स्ट पेमेंट हुआ 22 23 23 24 एंड 24 25 में, इंस्टॉलमेंट पे हुआ 9 लाख 9 लाख 9 लाख. इन्होंने आई डोंट, और यहाँ पे जितना भी पेड बेसिस पे जितना पेमेंट होता रहा और उसके बाद कितने साल बचे उस बेसिस पे लिए. सो विच, यानी एक 9 लाख का अलग से, 9 लाख का अलग से और 9 लाख का अलग से. देखो अब इन्होंने क्या किया कि 9 लाख पे हुआ, दिस आई थिंक इज 3 lakhs मेरे हिसाब से, बट दिस अप्रोच आई ऑल्सो एक्सप्लेन एंड आई आस्क ऐसा है कि दोनों में से सही कौन से. सो फर्स्ट दे टुक 9 lakhs व्हेन 9 lakh was paid in previous year 22 23, but we can only start with claiming in previous year 23 24, right? And the license is, hello,
हेलो
yes.
मैम, एक्चुअली क्वेश्चन में लिखा हुआ है कि 3 इंस्टॉलमेंट में पे किया है जो कि 9 lakhs के हैं, शायद इसीलिए ये 9 lakh है।
नहीं नहीं, बट मैंने जितने एग्जांपल्स पहले देखे उसमें ऐसा नहीं किया. मैं आपको बताती हूँ दोनों अप्रोच से आंसर कैसे डिफरेंट वेरी कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. सो प्रीवियस ईयर 23 24 में दो, दिस इज पेड इन प्रीवियस ईयर 22 23, दिस इज पेड इन प्रीवियस ईयर 23 24 एंड दिस इज पेड इन प्रीवियस ईयर 24 25, राइट. लाइसेंस का डेट कब तक है? टिल 31 मार्च 32. नहीं, क्वेश्चन में कितना दिया हुआ है?
लाइसेंस इज वैलिड फॉर 31 मार्च 32 फॉर 10
राइट. अब दो प्रीवियस ईयर 22 23 में पे हो गया, बट यू कैन नॉट क्लेम एनीथिंग. अब प्रीवियस ईयर 23, अब क्लेमिंग कब से स्टार्ट होगी? इन प्रीवियस ईयर 23 24 ओनली, राइट.
Yes.
अब उस हिसाब से 9 lakhs को डिवाइड बाय 9, 1 लाख ईच इंस्टॉलमेंट बना. ठीक है. फिर प्रीवियस ईयर 23 24 का भी 9 lakhs डिवाइड बाय 9, बिकॉज 23 24 से लेके प्रीवियस ईयर 20 31 32 तक भी 9 years बचते हैं. तो ये भी 9 lakhs डिवाइड बाय 9, हर साल 1 लाख का इंस्टॉलमेंट. और ये जो प्रीवियस ईयर 24 25 में पे हुआ वो 9 lakhs डिवाइड बाय 8 किया. क्यों? क्योंकि जब प्रीवियस ईयर 24 25 में पे हुआ उससे लेके 31 मार्च 32 तक 8 असेसमेंट ईयर्स आते हैं, विच मेक्स इट 1,12,500. सो हर साल 1 lakh for the payment which was paid on 1st April 22. Every year 1 lakh for the payment which was made in April 23, and every year 1 lakh for the payment which was made in 1,12,500 for the payment which was made in April 24. My consent says that if you वहां पे the language says under section 35AB. Second, let me open it.
नंबर 22 23 में क्यों अलाउड किया, समझ में नहीं आया।
22 23 में अलाउड नहीं किया, 22 23 में अलाउ नहीं किया. ये किया है फ्रॉम प्रीवियस ईयर 23 24 ओनली, तभी तो 9 years बन रहे हैं. पेमेंट 22 23 में हुई,
हाँ
बट अलाउ किया है फ्रॉम द ईयर 23 24. तो उस लॉजिक के हिसाब से 9 years ही बचे टू क्लेम दिस.
यस मैम,
तभी डिवाइड बाय 9 किए दोनों साल की पेमेंट्स को,
ओके मैम,
टू कैलकुलेट द अमोर्टाइजेशन फॉर ईच ईयर.
ओके मैम।
ठीक है. अब अगर हम यहाँ पे पेमेंट इन पार्ट्स में जाए, एक्चुअल पेमेंट अपोर्शनल फ्रैक्शन ऑफ द अमाउंट ऑफ सच एक्सपेंडिचर 1 divided by total number of relevant previous year. Beginning from the previous year in which the spectrum fee is actually paid and the subsequent previous year or years during which the spectrum fee is paid, actually paid means was incurred according to the method of accordingly represented. Okay. if you see rule 6A का part B, वो कहता है कि you have to calculate the amount assuming that it would have been payable by the assessee had he opted for full upfront payment. So मैंने उस approach से किया कि assuming 27 lakhs had the full upfront payment have been made, उस हिसाब से divide by 9 because 9 years are left to claim since the commencement
Yes, ma'am.
till the date of license. ठीक है, I took the total approach, but the ICAI is taking the approach, you pick payment by payment, और जब वो पेमेंट हो रहा है फ्रॉम दैट ईयर टिल दी लाइसेंस इज वैलिड, calculate each valid installment. Let me go back and confirm to them that both the approaches are right or the answer wala approach is right. Okay? I'll confirm with Dimple ma'am once again on this.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay? दोनों के हिसाब से थोड़ा सा वेरिएशन आएगा आंसर का, बट जिनी बैक टू योर क्वेश्चन, आपको ये समझ आया कि वाई 9 लाख बाय 9 फॉर द April 22 पेमेंट एंड वाई 9 लाख बाय 9 फॉर April 23 पेमेंट? ये समझ आया कि दोनों को 9 क्यों किया? बिकॉज इस पेमेंट का भी वैलिडिटी टू ऑब्टेन इज टू अमोर्टाइज इज 9 years, इसके लिए भी 9 years ही बचे. एक्चुअल पेमेंट डेट और कमेंसमेंट ईयर विच एवर इज लेटर से यू विल स्टार्ट.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Any doubt? But this is good that you guys are attempting question. Poonam, Sangeeta, any doubt? Vignesh?
मैम अभी आपने जो मैम का नाम लिया वो मैम कहाँ मिलेंगे फिर?
I will confirm and I'll get back to you. Don't worry.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other question? No? All set? Shall we start? Perfect. Just 1 second. Let me see the portal also. Perfect. या जी नहीं.
मैम बस एक बार जो आपने एक और क्वेश्चन दिया था, क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 होमवर्क के लिए, उसको एक बार प्रेजेंटेशन पर्पस से आप थोड़ा समझा दीजिए.
Test your knowledge for question number 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Question is regarding टी डेवलपमेंट. इसमें क्या डाउट है?
मैम इस क्वेश्चन के अंदर है ना, यानी 40% 60% का वो तो समझ में आ गया कैलकुलेशन, बट इसका प्रेजेंटेशन हम किस तरीके से करें? जितना यानी आंसर में लिखा है ढेर सारा, उतना पूरा करना पड़ेगा, या फिर अपने तरीके से कुछ, यानी किस तरीके से प्रेजेंट करें जिससे थोड़ा अच्छा भी लगे और अपना पर्पस भी सर्व हो जाए?
एक चीज हमेशा याद रखना. लेट मी जस्ट टेक द क्वेश्चन फर्स्ट.
यस मैम.
Whenever a question like theoretical plus practical, दोनों approach से mixed question comes. अब this question has asked you, you are required to determine the business income of, so this is a purely question on based on the tea coffee rubber development. टी development का question है 33 AB के basis पे. They have given you the information कि previous year में क्या business profits हैं, what is the sum deposited, what is the loss, etc., etc. Everything is given. Okay. Now the question is that, and they have given you the usage of the income in that scheme also. You are required to determine business income of G Limited and the tax consequences that may arise from the above transaction. What will be the consequence if asset which was purchased for 6 lakhs is sold for 8 lakhs in April 25? Now, simple part is that your answer always should substantiate what is asked. Main cheese should be totally on computing business income. So your questions will start with computation of business income of G Limited. Clearly, ताकि टेस्ट चेकर को भी पता चले कि what is required, not only for this question or for other question also. I'm showing that. Except that any small thing, why you are doing 40%, why you have taken rule 8, why you are doing 40%, or what amount is transferred, or उसमें से lower, what all logics which are there should be part of your working notes. Okay. Everything, main चीज होना चाहिए कि body of the answer में should be the thing which is asked. उसके अलावा logic of everything, why you are taking this, why it is done, and do not assume that if you have written rule 8, 60% directly apply कर दो. No, you have to make sure that you are doing it correctly. If you're writing 60% rule 8, then write it in the answer that as per rule 8, so and so percentage of income is considered as business income, so percentage is considered as your agricultural income. Similarly, then they have asked, what about the tax consequences that may arise of the above transactions? A business income is also one part, and tax consequences of each transaction they have asked is also one part of the answer. So part by part, for 6 lakhs, taken out of for the non-depreciable asset as per the scheme specified, taxable, non-taxable, you write non-taxable. This amount is not taxable as per the provisions of the Income Tax Law or Income Tax Act as per the provision of Section 33AB, since it is utilized for the purpose as per the scheme. Then you pick up 3 lakh. Then you pick up 1 lakh. ऐसे detailed one-liner answer why it is not taxable, and clearly writing taxable, non-taxable, basically clearly telling what is the impact of the transaction. Simple. Paper का answer जो भी है divided into parts, what are they asking? Everything else should be part of your working group.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
ठीक है?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear everyone? Okay, so now we will begin with our section 36. Let me share the screen. So as I told in the previous class, section 36 is not a general deduction section. इसका main heading आता है other deductions करके, because it has some list of 18 items roughly which are covered here, telling कि these would be allowed as deduction or these would not be allowed as deduction. If you can remember the clause, very good. If you cannot remember the clause, section 36 subsection 1, remembering is more than enough. But yes, as I told you at the beginning of the class, remembering which type of expenditure falls under this particular section, that should be clearly clear, that insurance comes under this section, bonus comes under this section, interest comes under this section. Then you will see further that premium for health insurance comes under this section. We'll go further, you'll see PF deductions also comes under this section. But remember, you are who? You are the employer, you are the business, you are the person who is doing such expenditure, because same expenditure can have an impact in the hands of the person having income. So do not get confused on those aspects. First of all, I covered up in the previous class was insurance. Insurance is a business expenditure and it is allowed if it's an insurance premium paid for the stock. If you're into cattle business, pay for your cattle, or if you're paying that premium for the health insurance of your employee. The things which I've highlighted here in green are the trigger points, my friend, and you should be very careful of them, because the answer, your adjustment can come based on this thing also. In question, health insurance premium paid for employees, 20,000, but it would be written paid in cash. And you will be like, health insurance for employee paid in cash? Let it go. No. If it is in cash, it would be disallowed. You have to remember what is the expenditure, how to remember section 30C, what is the expenditure, what are the conditions, what are the conditions for disallowance. If anything of that hits, it is my adjustment which I have to make. ठीक है, a big question में ऐसे small points you have to catch up. जैसे bonus and commission में, which we were discussing, that bonus and commission यहाँ पे confuse करने के लिए it can be given to you not as per the bonus act. It does not. It is not required anyway that the bonus and commission should be as per the bonus act. Question में आपको लिखा हो सकता है कि as per the bonus act it is इतना, but they have paid इतना amount. See, condition तो नहीं है ना. This is not a condition anywhere that it should be as per the bonus act. Condition is to claim an expenditure of bonus and commission. First of all, it is allowed under section 36. But another condition which you have to remember is that if it is not paid by the return filing date, it would not be allowed. Simple. So you, at your level, clear things would be given to you, but with a hint of confusion. You have to be strong at your concept that, okay, if it is not as per bonus act, it is nowhere written that it should be as per the bonus act. It's only written that bonus and commission paid to employee is deductible under section 36 subsection 1 clause 2. Along with that, I have to see section 43B, that it is paid by the return filing date or not. In fact, students, when this is the exam perspective, but when you're doing audit also, Audit maybe, these are the things which you have to remember. The conditions which we're talking about, these are the only things which, as a tax auditor specifically, you have to see. You will see, you will go to the salaries account, you will go to the bonus account, and then you will see whether it is paid till return filing date or not. Right? This is how you work in the real life also. And real life, if you work solidly, if you have a good exposure in your articleship for tax audit, understanding PGBP is really simple. I hope you can relate with that, right? Perfect. So now, next was interest on borrowed capital. All these were discussed in detail in the previous class. So if you think I'm going fast, just let me know. I will go it in detail again. So interest on borrowed capital, I told you, personal loan pay interest, cash, non-cash, anything is not allowed. Similarly, interest on loan on the business purpose, if you're taking, that would definitely be allowed. But remember, it can be written interest on loan taken for capital asset. That does not mean if it's a capital asset ka loan, the interest is not allowed because it's not a revenue expenditure. It is very much a revenue expenditure. But remember, interest on loan up to the date of put to use is capitalized as per which section? As per explanation to section 43. Okay. But interest on loan after the date of put to use is allowed as a normal revenue expenditure. Or a working capital loan, and that is allowed. But again, at the same time, remember, no matter which interest I'm talking about, whether on capital asset or whether on working capital, if that loan is taken from these things, NBFCs, PFIs, state financial corporations, banks, then it would be allowed only if paid till the return filing date. Whatever is paid till the return filing date would be allowed. So, for example, total interest on loan is 6 lakhs, but you have actually paid only 4 lakh. So now 6 lakhs would be given to you in PNL, that interest on loan, 6 lakh rupees. In adjustment, it would be written that till the return filing date, only 4 lakh was paid. So what you will do, you will disallow 6 lakhs and you will allow 4 lakh, or you will disallow 2 lakhs directly. Whatever approach you will take, it would be correct. And the reason, again, straight away goes to the working note. All my presentation students, directly to the working notes, that since as per section 36, interest on loan is allowed, but it is disallowed as per section 43B, or it is allowed only to the extent which is actually paid till the time of return filing as per section 43B. Sorted? Clear, everyone? So this was what we did in the previous class. Now we'll be starting for the new part, which is discount on zero coupon bonds. Now this comes very rarely, but let's understand this particular part also. Question may can come really. अब ये zero coupon bonds पे if a question comes, then first of all, this zero coupon bond is allowed only to certain types of company. Infrastructure capital companies होते हैं, they issue these bonds. Now these are a way of short-term borrowings. Short-term borrowings for whom? Short-term borrowings for the company. So if the company needs certain types of fund and at a short-term period, so they issue the bonds. Company would issue the bonds to the investor. Public like you and me can invest in it. Okay. Now, if the why I'm taking this solid approach, so that your both aspects can be clear. Now, when the company is issuing the zero coupon bonds, they are issued at discount and redeemed at par. Zero coupon, like a way, is like zero interest. There is no interest in relation to it. The element of discounting in itself is an expense for the company. What do you mean by element of discounting? So if I need, say, 100 crore rupees, I want to raise 100 crore rupees. So I will raise 100 crore rupee, and suppose I'll say to the public or to the investor that I will pay back 110 crore. So I'll say that the bonds were raised at, say, if each bond is of what, 100 rupees, 100 rupees to nahi, 1 lakh rupees karte hain, theek hai? Each bond is of 1 lakh rupees. At the time of payment, they'll get 1,10,000 rupees. So this is called issuing the bond at discount and redeeming it at par. Now, from the company perspective, friends, this 10,000 is per bond is kharcha. Is kharcha as in the expenditure, is basically that interest which they are paying, because they are getting less money and they are repaying extra money. So that 10 ka spread or 10 ka difference is actually the expenditure for the company. Now, since these are short-term borrowings, how would you claim the interest on it? Suppose the bonds were issued in February 23 or 24, okay? And they were redeemed in 10 months period. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So November 24 May, they have to be redeemed. Now the question is that this difference of 10 crore for the company, how would they claim it? Will they claim it in this year? Will they claim it in this year? How would this particular process would go? So it's basically simply on a simple maths called pro rata. The 10 crore divided by 10, because this is for 10 months period. Each month comes into 1 crore. So in the previous year, 23, 24, February 24 and March 24 ka interest would be claimed, as in the discounting would be claimed. That is 2 crore expense. And in the previous year, 24, 25, 8 crore ka expense would be claimed. That is total 10 crore. Simple. Okay. Now, why I'm telling you this story? This story ends for the perspective of the company, for the perspective from the PGBP. Investor ke liye, my friends, whatever this 10,000 per bond extra they are receiving because of it is being redeemed at par is directly a capital gain income, because redemption of zero coupon bonds, which you will study when you will be doing capital gain, it is not interest. It is not interest. The redemption of zero coupon bonds is a capital gain transfer, and hence this difference which they receive is a capital gain income. You will study this in your capital gain ka class, but if you will remember this example in your mind, you would be able to relate it with it easily. Any doubt on zero coupon bonds? But question, this comes very rare, or maybe a question can come from investor perspective or a company perspective. A small part. Generally, big questions ka part, it is not there. Friends, clear? Perfect. You want to draw this along with your zero coupon bond wala part. Infrastructure company ke baare mein you can read. It's just a good information to read. But this is that. Okay. Now, moving on to the next deduction section, which is very important. Deduction under section 36, subsection 1, clause 4A. Se pehle I'll cover clause 4 and 5. Okay. How many of you understand these provident funds when it comes from employer-employee perspective, or NPS? Is it, do you have a clarity ki from employee perspective or from the investor perspective when you're studying, then you have to study from salary and deductions chapter. When you're understanding from the employer perspective, these provisions have to be studied from PGBP chapter. So let's make you understand how this works. So Abhi, I'll not go into the details of section 80C, 80CCD and all. We'll understand it from purely employer perspective. Now, employer, we know that in a provident fund or any fund, there are, if I talk from the employer contribution and employee contribution, provident fund, superannuation fund, any retirement fund, what is happening? There is employer contribution. I'm writing it as ER, employer. Okay? Then there is employee contribution. Then there is interest on employer contribution. And then there is interest on employee contribution, right? Total milake, everything of this belongs to the employee only, right? This is the part of the salary for employee. This part, everything, this part is the part of salary. Interest is also the part of salary. Employee contribution is a part of 80C for the employee. And the interest earned here is vesting them, but otherwise it can go to other sources if we drawn earlier. Right? Yes? Now, this is what you understand from the employee perspective. From the employer perspective, this contribution which he is making or she is making is a kharcha, right? It's an expenditure. Yes, yes. But the question is whether it is allowed or whether it is not allowed. As simple as that. So here it's a clear clarity that if the contributions which we are talking about of this provident fund, superannuation fund, or even gratuity fund, any fund we're talking about, statutory provident fund, recognized provident fund, if these funds are recognized, either you will look for the word recognized or approved. Then whatever contribution the employer is making, whatever contribution the employer is making is allowed as expenditure under section 36(1), clause 4 and 5. 4 and 5? Yes. Under section 36(1), clause 4 and clause 5. What contributions? Employer contributions. Clear? Business समझना है खुद को. Now, what about unrecognized contributions or unapproved contributions? If an employer is making contributions to any unrecognized or unapproved funds, they are not allowed as deduction to the employer. Simple. But यहाँ पे market one very, very important thing. Same. They should be deposited with the funds till or before the due date of return filing. Due date of return filing of what? Due date of the return filing of the employer of the business. It can be 31st July, it can be 31st October, it can be 30th November. Whatsoever is the case, based on that, you have to deposit the contribution. So now as an auditor also or in the paper checker also, you see that whatever contributions are being made, are they deposited in those respective funds till the date of the return filing, due date of the return filing. Simple. So if unapproved, not allowed. Unrecognized, not allowed. Recognized and approved, allowed, but subject to 43B, which you can write. अब ये interest earn क्या हो रहा है क्या नहीं हो रहा है, it is not my headache. My headache as in employer's headache to see. It is not his income. They don't even have to see. So from the business perspective, this is not material. Now we come to the employee contribution. We come to the employee contribution towards these welfare fund or any funds which they have taken. What will happen to that? What will happen to that? You will say, ma'am, why is it even a deduction aspect? Deduction aspect in the sense means it is, I deduct that amount with them, with myself, and I keep it with myself only, right? I keep it with myself only. Deduction of this amount would be allowed under section 36, subsection 1, clause 5A, provided this particular employee contribution, यानी मैंने किसी का पैसा अपने पास काट के रखा है, or I have taken a contribution from the employee, or I have deducted that money from his salary before giving to them as employee contribution. I have to make sure that this particular amount is deposited in the respective fund by the due date of the fund. By the due date of the fund. We'll say due date of the fund means, so if I'm talking about a provident fund, I think 15th is the date. So by that particular date, you have to make sure that the amount of the employee contribution is deposited. If it is not deposited, then it would be disallowed. So employer, मतलब मेरे खुद का contribution, if it is my contribution, I can deposit it by the return filing period. But if it's employee contribution and I have to claim deduction, I have to deposit it by the due date of that particular fund, which comes every month by 15th of the month. Sorted? So दोनों के aspect से, considering yourself as employer, you have to be very careful. Yes? No? Guys, yes, clear? Perfect. This is about your section 36, subsection 1, clause 4, 5 and 5A. Now, about NPS. I have not written NPS here. NPS के लिए friends थोड़ा सा different है. Let's talk about NPS now. First of all, mark NPS as important because NPS में there is a small change also which has come during the year. NPS में NPS में one thing is simple that it would be allowed as deduction based on actual contribution or 14% of salary. Earlier, this amount was 10%. Now, with the Finance Act 2024, Finance Act number 2, 2024, it is being made 14%. So, 14% of the salary. What's the contribution? Whose contribution talking about? Employer contribution. Employee contribution does not matter. वो उसके deduction के लिए, ATCCT के लिए. Employer contribution from the perspective of employer's return, we only have to see employer contribution ka what would be the deduction. So it would be the actual contribution or 14% of the salary. Now salary here is the same salary which we use for HR purpose, which we use for your other deciding purpose, which is your basic salary plus DA of retirement benefits plus percentage based fixed commission. Okay. Now, there's one question also. X Limited contributes 20% of the basic salary to the account of each employee under a pension scheme referred to in ATCCD. DNS allowance is 40% of the basic salary and it forms part of the pay of the employees. Calculate the amount of deduction allowed under Section 36, subsection 1, clause 4A. If the basic salary of the employee aggregates to 10 lakh, what would be the disallowance under Section 40A and 9? So whatever is the allowance is under Section 36. The amount which is not allowed is there under Section 40A. Let's understand. We'll not see the answer. Simply first we'll calculate what is the salary we have to take. Salary is 10 lakhs. Okay. And 2 plus 4 lakhs would be 40% becomes part of the 40% is the DNS allowance. Nothing is written and it's written and it forms part of the pay of the employee. So plus 4 lakhs, 14 lakhs. 14 lakhs ka technically how much? 14%. 14 lakhs of 14% comes to 1,96,000. Okay. This is the maximum ceiling limit. What contribution they are making? They are making 20% of the basic, which is 10 lakhs. So the actual contribution is 2 lakhs. Allowed is 196. So what would be allowed under Section 36, subsection 1, clause 4A is 1,96,000. What is the disallowance under Section 40A, subsection 9 is the 4,000. Out of the total expenditure of 2 lakh, 4,000 is disallowed, 1,96,000 is allowed. How would you do in the question? If suppose a big question comes and it is written contribution to NPS for the employee 2 lakh rupees. So you will just show a disallowance. Either you will show a disallowance under Section 48(9), see the 4,000, or you will make it like simple. You will make it up till here. But if this same question comes as adjustment, no impact is there in the P&L. Additional information is given that 2 lakh is paid as actual contribution to the NPS. Now, you will follow just one approach, that 36 subsection 1 clause 4A में you will make a allowance. ये नहीं है कि एक part पे you are making an allowance and दूसरे part पे you are making the disallowance also. Understanding my point? दो impact दोनों मत दे देना question में. Just remember कि if profit में से it is reduced already, then you add back the disallowance part. If profit में no impact is there, then you only give the reduction of the allowance expenditure. Please don't be smart and do both in the exam. कि नहीं मैम ने तो बोला था कि actual contribution में से 196 is allowed, we will reduce that, and 49 is disallowed, we will reduce that. Please carefully apply your brain because we are providing the information. Now you have to test what is being asked. And if an MCQ comes, again, you have to see if they're asking the disallowance or whether they're asking the allowance. Whatever comes under section, till section 37 are all allowable expenditure. Whatever comes 40 above are all disallowabilities. Okay? Am I making sense? Is it getting clear? So दोनों चीजें don't do that in exam if a full-fledged question comes. Others, you can put a thumbs up so that I get कि हाँ, we all are in same page. Poonam, Sangeeta, it's my habit. I will keep on poking, okay? चले आगे. All the contributions वाला part is clear, sorted, perfect. Next is the list of allowance for animals. Now, animals, you remember, they are not taken as your depreciable asset. They should not be taken as your depreciable asset. So now, suppose animals are your asset. Asset how? In the sense, asset in the sense, are a part of your business. I'm not talking about stock in trade. I'm talking about they are part of your business. Then what happens? If they're used as a business, then how? Suppose someone has kept an animal as a security dog, or someone has kept an animal if they are into milking business. That is also the cattle is also their particular type of expenditure. Now, how do you claim the expenditure? First of all, animal expenditure is allowed only when they are permanently useless or if they die. At that time, it is allowed. What is allowed? Whatever expenditure you spend while getting that particular cow or getting that particular dog, minus any amount if you receive as cash or as the residue, that. So net amount would be allowed as expenditure. Sorry if I hurt anyone feeling because of animals, but this is what the Income Tax Act says. Sorted? Does not come very much often in the question. Next comes, which is very, very, very important, bad debts. Bad debts पे focus करते हैं ना. बड़े bad debts? Okay. Now bad debts का how it is, what is bad debt? What do you mean by bad debt? Anyone want to tell what is bad debt? The debt which has gone bad, simple, right? जिसका recovery is now not foreseen, that is a bad debt. Now, every business can have a loss because of revenue, as in a revenue bad debt or a capital bad debt also. Simple, remember, bad debt if some expenditure, if some amount which was due to receive by you, you did not receive it, it is permanently written off in book. Written off in books. This is a very important point. This is a very important language which you have to write. Then, whatever amount you write off in book, that is allowed as your deduction. That is allowed as your deduction. So when I say actually written off, that clearly means that any provision of bad debts would not be allowed. So the word provision, friends, anyway, as an expenditure is not allowed until unless I'm talking about banks, NBFCs, etc. The word provision, if it is there, it is not an actual expenditure, it would not be allowed. Even when I talk about gratuity provisions or any other provisions generally are not allowed because they are estimation basis, right? Provision for bad debts is not allowed until unless it's bank, NBFCs, foreign banks, etc. So we are talking just from the normal business expenditure, right? So amount which you actually write off in your books, that is allowed. Amount which you actually write off in your books is allowed. But remember, I am talking about an amount which is written off, which should first at least be treated as income. If I'm writing off some amount in future or some today, for example, some years back or maybe earlier, it should have been a part of a revenue. वो income में कभी माना जाना चाहिए. It should have been part of an income, like sales debtor होना चाहिए. Any type of debtor should be there. Why I'm focusing on this point? That clear-cut understanding is, the condition is that the amount should be written off his book, and at some point, maybe today, maybe earlier, that amount which we are writing as bad should have been treated as income earlier. अब treated as income earlier मतलब revenue का part होना चाहिए of the amount which now I'm claiming as an expenditure when it going which I'm now claiming as an expenditure when it's going bad. पहले उसको income का तो part मानूं तभी तो income में से minus करोगे when it's not recoverable, right? Or at least I should have treated it as income earlier then only I would have been able to reduce it when it is not recoverable, right? So so can I conclude that only revenue related bad debts are allowed as deductions? Capital related bad debts are not allowed as deduction. I mean, you say, what is capital related bad debts? If I have given loan, suppose I've given loan to Mr. X. Now I am unable to recover that loan. That is my capital loss. I am unable to recover that loan. Even if it is gone bad, I cannot claim it as loss in my books. Why? Because in my profit specifically, because it was never routed through P&L. The income was never routed through P&L. When I was paying when it was due to be received, it was never routed through P&L. Similarly, when it is now not being able to recover, it would be not allowed. So loans, when given, are never routed through P&L, right? So that's why when they go bad, they will not come into P&L. So up, same question. If an adjustment entry comes like amount given to Mr. X gone bad, 3 lakhs, and it is already reduced in profit, you will add it back because capital related, loan related bad debts are not allowed. And capital related, I'm writing. But suppose if I'm into a business of giving loans and I'm into a business of financial transactions only, then obviously loan giving, etc., is my daily routine work. In that case, obviously it would be allowed. Make sense? Point clear? So amount which is actually written off, and first it should be at least routed through P&L. That means only revenue related bad debts would be allowed. But what about bad debt recovery? What about later if I recover the bad debts?
Treated as income.
Absolutely, very good. So if I'm not saying sales हुआ, I'm saying I had to receive 1 lakh in previous year 22-23 from Mr. X. Okay, so 1 lakh I showed as sale. Now in previous year 23-24, I wrote it off. I was not able to trace Mr. X. 40,000 I wrote it off. 60,000 was recovered. This was written off. So this 40,000 would be allowed in the previous year 23-24 return. Now cut down to previous year 24-25. Somehow I found Mr. X and I asked him to pay the amount. He gave me 10,000 rupees. So now this 10,000 is my income, business income. If this is received even after the business is closed, even after the business is shut down, still it would be my business income under section 41. Under section 41. Sorted 41 क्या है? Deemed income के sections of business. One by one we will cover all also, but by the time we will reach to that section, you will see most of them is covered. Clear? But a question. I told you even if the business is not going, still it is my income. Let me ask a tricky question out of here. I am a firm, okay? I am a firm. I made a sale to Mr. X. Amount was not recovered. I wrote it off 40,000. Now later on, the business got closed. The firm got dissolved. My partner, one of my partner recovered this 10,000 rupees. What will happen to this 10,000 now?
It's treated as income of that partner who has recovered it.
But he did not even claim 40,000 as expenditure in his return or as a deduction in his return. In that case, it would not be a business income at all. It would not be an income taxable under section 41. The question is, it would be another source of income. You can see yes, but not a business income. अब question में पता है क्या होता है? Why I have asked this question? So that you know how to write it. If the question is only if it should be treated as business income in the hands of partner, बस इतना ही जवाब देना. Just give this much answer that it would not be treated as income in the hands of partner. Don't dug deep into your thoughts and mind ki then where it should be given and you will write it in your answer. No, if the question just asks the taxability of one provision as per one particular section only, restrict your answer it to that particular section. Treat it as business income, yes or no, just write yes or no. Don't tell which head it will go or which not. Extra information is not required. Do not waste your time in writing it and do not apply your brain with so much of information already in exam. Okay? Okay. So, bad debt recovery wala part, clear? Now, ICDS, mein, there is one aspect here, but we have not touched ICDS. When I will be touching ICDS probably in the next class or next to next class, I'll take up that also. Now, we come to provision. We come to provision. Provision का question इतना important है भी नहीं and आता भी नहीं है. Very less it comes. Let me just take you to the provision part, just to tell you what it actually says. But if you want to skip it, just remember the percentage and you can skip it. So provision for bad and doubtful debt is not allowed to everyone. It is only allowed to specific banks, financial institutions, and your NBFCs, not to everyone. ठीक है, public financial institutions, banks में सब, scheduled bank, your cooperative banks, your rural banks, your foreign banks, सबके लिए, ठीक है. But what is the percentage which is allowed? Whatever amount you've created as provision or this amount. 8.5% of your adjusted total income, which is total income before this deduction, ठीक है. Total income of who? Total income of the bank. So maximum 8.5% of the total income ka you will be allowed as provision. Plus, if you are into rural branches, rural deposits, rural advances, basically, then the probability of having bad debt is high. Obviously, the probability of having bad debt is high because rural area mein the recovery chances are comparatively low than urban branches, right? So if you are into rural branches, etc., then 10% of the aggregate rural advances, aggregate average advances basically would also be allowed as provision, So either the provision which you have made in your book or as per this amount. The maximum amount is this, whichever is lower. So maximum 8.5% of your total income or 10% of the aggregate average advances made to the rural branches, made by the rural branches, sorry. So only in case of banks, scheduled banks. Foreign banks, NBFCs, और your public financial institutions, उनके लिए रूरल ब्रांचेस का कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है. खाली 8.5% ऑफ टोटल इनकम किस जगह, इंस्टेड ऑफ 8.5% ऑफ टोटल इनकम, इट इज 5% ऑफ योर टोटल इनकम. सिंपल, नथिंग एल्स. So if a question comes, but otherwise it comes very rarely. So you can mark it as NIMP, not important also. Next, but abhi tak section 36 में what we already sorted it: premiums, bonus commission, interest, bad debts, then contributions to approved funds, non-approved funds, NPS, employee contribution. This is all clear step by step. कहीं पे भी कोई doubt नहीं है. Okay. Another not so important deduction coming up is in case of specified entities. I haven't seen mere particular period में a question coming from this. If there is any specified entities कौन सी हैं, we'll come to that. Again, these are only for banks, etc., or those who are into some specified project or housing finance company, etc. They have to transfer certain amount of profit to a special reserve. See, we don't get a deduction for special reserve. That's appropriation of profit. But these companies who are into infrastructure facilities or who are a housing finance company or who are banks, etc., they have to transfer certain amount to reserve. So if they transfer certain amount to reserve, that is allowed as deduction. Now, what is allowed as deduction? Whatever the amount they transfer, और एक बारी उस रिजर्व का अमाउंट 200% हो गया, दैट इज ट्वाइस द अमाउंट ऑफ द पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल इन जनरल रिजर्व का परसेंटेज हो गया, यानी ट्वाइस ऑफ दैट अमाउंट रिजर्व में पड़ा है. मेरा 100 करोड़ का पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल है, नाउ रिजर्व में 200 करोड़ ऑलरेडी टच हो गया. माय 100 करोड़ इज द पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल, बट ट्रांसफरिंग टू दिस रिजर्व हैज नाउ क्रॉस 200 करोड़. सो वंस इट क्रॉस 2 times of the paid up share capital in general reserve, I will not be allowed as deduction. उस रिजर्व में only till twice the amount of paid up share capital in general reserve can. This is an additional point which you can note down. और उसमें से what whenever you will be withdrawing an amount, that would be treated as income. Simple. Now we come to family planning. This 1 second. Yeah. So family planning, क्या है? So this is only allowed to companies. Please highlight this is not allowed to everyone. This is only allowed to companies who when the companies are making any type of expenditure on the family planning of the company of the employees of the company, that is allowed. Promoting the family planning, that is allowed as deduction. This deduction is like in a way to promote the knowledge of family planning. So that's why it's allowed. So whatever revenue expenditure is there, that anyway is allowed. But capital expenditure is also allowed in 5 installments for 5 years, 1/5 each year would be allowed for the capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure, obviously directly allowed. 1/5 of the capital expenditure is allowed every year for 5 years. Only to companies. This again, deduction for expenditure incurred by central, state, or provisional act. So this is not important. You can skip it. We'll come to small industries. You can skip this also. Coming to the last two. Last two. Sugar cane wala bhi hai. Okay. Okay. Now deduction for commodity transaction tax and security transaction tax. Whenever you make any transaction on stock exchange, it can be an transaction of stock, shares, securities, or it can be a transaction of commodities. You know, commodities also get traded, commodity MCX pay. So you have to pay a certain amount as STT or CTT. Recently, in fact, from 1st October or immediately after the Finance Act, they've raised the STT and CTT also. So when you are paying this particular amount as STT or CTT, you would be allowed as deduction. But ये किसको मिलेगा? Who will get it? Anyone who is dealing in shares as a business income. Anyone who is dealing in shares as a business income. It cannot happen that my shares are my investment and I'm showing that as an investment as a capital asset, and here under section 36 I'm claiming STT, CTT as deduction. No. The person who has kept all these as stock in trade, only those person will get a deduction of STT and CTT whenever they are transferring or whenever they're making any transaction. You know, STT and CTT are not allowed as deduction in capital gain. So if my business income is shares or the dealing in shares is my business income, then STT and CTT are allowed. But if dealing in shares is my investment income, that is my capital gain income, then STT and CTT are not allowed. This is written in your provisor to section 48. They are not allowed. So investor perspective say not allowed, but from trader perspective allowed. Any doubt up till now? Shall I move forward? Okay. Last few common wale we have discussed in detail. Don't worry, I'm not saying that leave everything apart. Okay. Now we come to the last two, which is sugarcane industry. Now, this is deduction in respect of expenditure incurred by a cooperative society. Which is actually engaged in the business of or manufacturing of sugar. So for purchase of sugarcane at a price which is equal or less than the price fixed approved by the government, the deduction would be allowed. So can I say it would be the lower of the purchase price of the sugarcane or price fixed by the government? दोनों में से whichever is lower, that would be allowed. We will be like, ma'am, why full deduction is not allowed? Can anyone think why it is not allowed? Generally, it's a purchase expenditure, but why full deduction is not being given? It's price fixed by the government or the purchase price, whichever is lower, that is allowed. Think about it. Yeah, please.
To avoid overpricing kind of, since it's an agriculture income.
Very good. Very good. People, they show it at a higher price and they can go easily. They show it at there is a statutory minimum price and then there is final price. People overprice it because basically cooperatives, and this is specifically for cooperative society, because among their members they can overprice, their taxability does not come, and they can easily evade the tax. So to curb this practice of claiming excess payment as a business expenditure, this particular aspect, this particular section was introduced. Okay. Last is mark-to-market loss. Mark-to-market loss is simple, that mark-to-market loss is actually not allowed, but if it is as per ICDS, that would be allowed. If it is as per ICDS, that would be allowed. We will come back to this particular point again when we'll be doing ICDS 7, which is for securities. Okay. Uske baad we'll come again. Mark-to-market, matlab suppose if I have purchased a share at 10 rupees, now it has fallen to 8 rupees. I will not every day market the loss. Till the time it is not an actual loss, it would not be marked. It is allowed when it comes to certain ICDS. Okay. So this is all 18, 19 provisions of your section 36. I'll repeat the list quickly for you. Kahi pe bhi kisi pe doubt hai, just let me know. There is insurance premium, there is bonus commission, there is interest on borrowed capital. Bonus commission mein there is section 43B, interest on borrowed capital mein there is 43B. There is discount of zero coupon bonds. There is employer's contribution to Provident Fund, employer's contribution to NPS, contribution, there is gratuity fund also. Then employee's contribution to the fund, loss of animals, bad debts, provision for bad debts, transfer to special reserve, family expenditure, then there is some credit guarantee fund ka and statutory corporations ka, which you can skip, STT, CTT, and your expenditure for purchase of sugarcane and your mark-to-market loss. Okay, so these are all under section 36. You should remember कि कौन-कौन से section 36 में आता है. At your level, common is STT, CTT, bad debts, family planning, employer contributions wala, employee contribution wala, interest, bonus, and commission. Okay. This is how you have to at least have a knowledge that these are all part of section 36. Clear? Very important. See, last class, I think relatability factor was less because different industries ki expenditure was there, and you were like, oh, telecom industries, oh, tea development. Section 36 and 37 are very interesting because yahan pe you get to understand the daily expenditure which an organization is making, and your tax audit experience also helps, right? Perfect. So now let's move on to section 37. Now, abhi tak, if you recall the list, we are doing deductions, expenditures, and till now, no such section has come which has covered salary or which has covered business expenditure, marketing expenditures, advertisement expenditure. Where are those sections? Where would I claim the deduction? Just recall, can I claim that marketing expenditure ka deduction under section 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34, 35 ka list? So we can set aside. 36 mein also we cannot claim. So where would I be able to claim all such expenditures? So my friends, all such expenditure comes part of your section 37, which is your general expenditure ka list. Say general deduction scale, residuary deduction scale, whatever name you want to call, you can call it under section 37. Now, ये आप बोलोगे ये तो बहुत easy section हुआ ना. This is a very easy section to claim because सब कुछ इसमें claim हो जाएगा तो कुछ conditions भी नहीं है. Actually, it is an easy section, but basically all the case laws comes from this only. See, whether it's a business expenditure to be claimed or not. Ultimately, your answer lies in all these aspects, which you can see on your screen between A to H. That first of all, it should not be part of any specific deduction, that is from section 30 to 36. Then it should be incurred by the assessee. If assessee is not incurring it during the year, then it should not be allowed. It should not be allowed. If someone else is incurring an expenditure for me, why should I allow it from the business? Simple. It should be for the business carried on by the assessee, wholly and exclusively for the purpose of such business. If it is not for the purpose of such business, that's not a business expenditure. It should not be a personal expenditure. Simple. It should not be a prior period expenditure. Prior period means business commence होने से पहले का expenditure we are not considering. Most importantly, it should not be a capital expenditure, because if it's a capital expenditure, you will add it into the block of the asset, you will claim depreciation, right? All the revenue expenditure comes here, and it should not have been incurred by the assessee for any purpose which is an offense or is prohibited by law. लॉ में प्रोहिबिटेड है या लॉ का वॉयलेशन है. इफ इट इज अ लॉ का वॉयलेशन और इट इज प्रोहिबिटेड बाय लॉ, you will not claim expenditure. Simple. So considering all these important, what are the important points? Simple. Revenue expenditure, legal expenditure होना चाहिए, not prior period, and wholly and exclusively for the purpose of business. Simple. If these points are ticked, it is a business expenditure. If these points are not ticked, it is not a business expenditure. But there are a lot of clarities which have come through circulars, through explanation, which we'll now discuss. This particular section actually deserves a lot of attention and people just skip it. So first clarity is that if you are spending any amount on the key, as a premium of a key man insurance person, the insurance premium of group health is allowed under section 36. But if you are paying premium for the main man of the company, that is allowed as business expenditure under section 37. Under section 37, because key man is ultimately for the benefit of the business only. Key man to the business is the benefit of the business. I don't remember if you guys were here when in the first class of the PGBP, a friend of you asked the question that whether it would be a business expenditure or not. The question was like, Mr. or the company paid travel expenditure for the wife of a director who came along with him for an event of a business in which it was mandated that come with your partner. Okay, it was a very old case, but why I'm taking up is to give, maybe if you have heard the discussion on that class and you want to relate to it, simply the thing was whether the travel expenditure of wife should be allowed as deduction or not. That was the question. Yeah. So simply when I read the case law, it was simply like that if taking wife along is mandated by the party because it was some business convention and it would result in the business goodwill. Okay, then obviously it should be allowed as expenditure because ultimately वो business को benefit करेगा, right? But if taking along the wife is just for leisure purpose, that okay, come along because it's a business trip, that obviously would not allow. Because in the same question, in the same case law, if you read it in detail, the wife went along on two trips. One was to Vietnam and one was to South Africa. Okay, so in the Vietnam trip, it was allowed because Vietnam it came as an invitation that bring your wife along. It was a +1 mandatory. But South Africa trip में it was no such thing there. So South Africa trip का expenditure they disallow. Vietnam trip का expenditure or Maldives or Mauritius का, I don't remember the country, that was allowed. Simply wherever you see that the business is getting benefited, it is for the benefit of business. Any such question can come to you as a case law also. In all these things, you have to apply these provisions of section 37 and answer it. Okay. What all more clarity has come into section 37? Let's see that. Just one second. Okay, there is a clear clarity that expenditures which are prohibited by law would not be allowed. Okay, and explanation 3 has clearly given the understanding of what do you mean by prohibited by law? What do you actually understand what is prohibited by law? So anything which is not allowed or is an offense either in India or even outside India, that is not allowed. Or anything which is not which would result in violation of any law or is violation of any guidelines or violation of any regulation, not allowed. Anything which is paid for compounding an offense, मतलब offense से once you make an offense, उस पे तो whatever expenditure you have done is not allowed. But compounding is के ले दे के settle करने वाला part. उस पे भी if you are making an expenditure, obviously that is also not allowed. And if you have to settle some proceedings which are in relation to that contribution, obviously that would also not be allowed. So basic thing, ये अब आप बोलोगे कि मैम this is the common understanding. Yes, this is a common understanding, but it is clearly written. This has a lot of common questions coming in. One is an example of freebies. So you know that not as per income tax, as per the medical rules or the medical regulations, you should not give freebies or medicines to the doctor to promote it. Okay. Now, suppose you are a manufacturing company of medicines. You made certain freebies to the doctor. You cannot claim it as expenditure because it is violation of the law. It is violation of the regulations put by you through the Indian Medical Association. Okay? But at the same time, the doctors receiving freebies have to show it as a business income because as per section 28, any perquisite received due to business is a business income. So make that clarity clear. Another example which comes, freebies, Ginny, any samples, any free gifts, that is called freebies. FREEBIES, freebies. Another example or another question which comes is Mr. X hired gundas or to recover the money from one of his debtors. Now he will not say that I had hired gundas to recover the money which is for the benefit of the business. See, hiring gunda or making any corruption things, even if it is for the benefit of business, but it is illegal, right? It is illegal. You cannot claim expenditure of all of these. You cannot claim expenditure of all these under section 37. Any question which is coming into your mind? Is this a business expenditure or not? Think as wildly as you can, no problem. Another clearly explanation inserted in your section 37 is for CSR expenditure. CSR expenditure, companies have to do certain expenditure as per section 135. If they cross a certain turnover, they have to divert certain amount of their profits for the social welfare, which is called corporate social responsibility, right? You will be like, suppose a company is spending 10 crores every year towards corporate social responsibility. The question is, this 10 crore is a business expenditure or not? What do you think? Is it a business expenditure or not? What do you think? Is it a business expenditure? Yes, no. Guys, if you will not reply, how will we work? Okay, business expenditure. Okay. So CSR name, see CSR what? CSR is application or a portion of the profits. It is not certain expenditure, even if you are mandated by the law to do it, but it is only happening when you are actually having a profit out of it. Right. And you are just applying those profit for a purpose. See, appropriations from the profits are never expenditure. That's why dividend, transferring to reserves, etc., is not allowed because they are after you have profit. So similarly, CSR is one such things when you have profits and you are applying it. So CSR expenditures, friends, are not allowed. Yes, not allowed. Similarly, advertisements. See, when I'm making any advertisement for business purpose, definitely it's an allowable expenditure. But if I'm making those advertisements in any brochure, pamphlets of a political party, because political party, if you'll open pamphlets, brochures, souvenirs, there is a common column of advertisement, right? If you're making advertisement of my business in the political party's brochures, pamphlet, or any of their material, that would not be allowed as business expenditure. You will say, why so? See, advertisement is allowed as business expenditure, but advertisement in political parties, souvenirs are not allowed because it's like your indirect way to make a contribution to political parties. It is a indirect way to make a contribution to political parties by giving them money for advertising your own business. So that's why it is not allowed. That's why it is not allowed. Abandoned feature film you can skip. इसके अलावा obviously questions which might be coming in your mind, dividend not allowed, Gifts, not allowed. Gifts to employees, gifts for the purpose of business, allowed. That is allowed. That is allowed. What else you think can be a part of your business expenditure? Everything. Achha, one common thing people get confused in rates, taxes, interest, penalty. See, rates, taxes, interest, penalty is sub या fee, fine, all of this. So whenever penalty की अगर मैं बात करूँ, penalty friends, if it is for any violation, penalty generally is for violation of law, that is not allowed. That is not allowed. But penalty for any violation of a contract. I made a contract with X Limited that I will supply them 100 goods or 100 samples by so and so date. But I failed to supply 100 samples. Because of delay, I have to pay a penalty of 1 lakh rupees. That would be allowed because it was in the nature of business contract and that is a genuine mistake. Okay, that would be allowed. There is no violation of any law or any rules and regulations, right? So, but I'm making any penalty payment in income tax, in GST, or under any law. Any penal consequences are not allowed. Any penal consequences are not allowed. But what about rates and taxes or cess, etc.? So we can divide it like this: DT, IDT. Direct tax, indirect tax. Whatever is in relation to direct tax would not be allowed. Income tax में income tax देने का खर्चा would never be allowed, right? That would not be allowed. So this is a very common adjustment which comes in your question. Income tax paid of rupees whatever amount, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, disallowed because it is not a business expenditure as per section 37. Similarly, any other expenditure for rates, taxes of IDT, be it custom, duty, be it excise, be it GST, IGST, whatever is there, if you're not taking the credit, that would be allowed. If you're taking the input credit, that would not be allowed. Otherwise, if you're not taking the credit, routing it through P&L, allowed. Similarly, interest, allowed. Interest is a sort of delay. Interest is not violation. Interest is not violation. So that's why it's allowed. But penalty, friends, is not allowed because that is because of a violation. Okay. Sorted this question, these adjustments come. So please, in all the business expenditure section 37 के case में apply the brain prior period, capital nature, not for business, illegal, disallowed. ठीक है? Sorted. Any other thing you want to ask under section 37 specifically? So here we will quickly pause for a break and break के बाद we will start with your section 40 which is now the inadmissibility part. कि अब क्या क्या नहीं मिलेगा and because of what reasons. And that is very interesting. Okay, so let's meet after the break. And if you, first of all, go eat something, have freshen up. If you're free, you can give in look to illustration 11 and we'll be back soon. Thank you. Thank you. Great, everyone. Any doubt from section 36? I hope you enjoyed it and it was pretty interesting. Okay. Any doubt? Any questions? Any queries? समझ में आया? Also, please remember those tips. Remember, highlight those green areas which will be your actual testing points on all these sections. Now move on to disallowances. Section 30 to 36 is everything about this is allowed, this is allowed, this is allowed. Yes, with conditions. But now section 40 onwards, everything about is about what is not allowed, what is not allowed, what are the conditions of non-allowability or when the disallowability would come. So disallowance you can call, or you can call inadmissible deductions, whatever way you want to call, you can discuss. What all sections we have to take care for this? You have to take care here, section 40, section 40A. दोनों अलग हैं guys. 40 is different and 40 capital A is a different section. Now 40 में there's a list with clause A, clause A1, A2 and so on. That is a different list. So if I say 40A, I'm talking about this. Now 40A1, I'm talking about this. If I say 40A, subsection 3, subsection 1 or subsection 2, that is different. Okay? So all of them covers disallowability or certain aspect, but please listen carefully किसमें है उसके साथ साथ which all sections. So 41 is about income, 40A, then there is 43B. Abhi first target now for till we go to the end of the class is to cover all these. Now all these are not just 3 sections, there are a lot of various subsections clauses here which we'll pick up one by one. We'll understand it, what it is, and then we will do some questions or illustrations in respect to it. Now, first is on inadmissible deductions under section 40. Now, friends, under section 40, inadmissible deductions are various types, obviously. But why they are this inadmissibility? There can be inadmissibility to promote you to do a compliance. If you're not doing a certain compliance, there can be inadmissibility coming from certain expenditures which should not be allowed. There can be n number of reasons. But in this list of section 40, the disallowances, there is disallowances in relation to TDS, equalization levy, there is disallowances in relation to your tax payments, royalty, employer contribution. Most of them we have already covered. Non-monetary purpose, it's pay tax, disallowances in relation to partners, or payment made to partners, payment made to members. All of this will come under your section 40. Then 40A may, 40A, section 40, capital A may, there is disallowances in relation to related parties, disallowances in relation to cash payments, disallowances in relation to gratuities, statutory funds and mark to market list. Okay, so section 36 की कुछ allowance which are covered under section 36, उसी का disallowance part is covered under section 40A. So one by one, we'll pick up each and we'll discuss about it. So first of all is disallowance for the TDS default, which is covered under my section 40, 40 clause A subsection, or 40 clause A subsection, sub clause 1. ठीक है, or I say 40AI, some says 40AIA, both are correct, okay? So let's begin. So both are TDS related default. This is when you have a TDS payment or when you have made a payment to NR, that is non-resident, and you were required to deduct tax and you did not deduct tax. This is when you are making payment to residents and you were required to deduct tax, or you did not deduct tax, or you were required to deduct tax, you deducted tax, but you did not deposit the tax. दोनों sections talk about the same things. Not deducted TDS. So if on a payment TDS was deductible, you did not deduct it. Or now all of these particular disallowances students comes when audit is done or when AO picks it. ठीक है, खुद से कोई नहीं बताता in the return. Generally, when audits are done, then only these things comes into picture in practical life. Okay, so not deducted TDS or deducted TDS but not deposited. But not deposited till when? Not deposited with the government till the due date of return filing, not TDS return filing, till the ITR return filing due date. So if any TDS payable is there in your account, then you will see whether it is being deposited by the return filing or not. If it is not deposited by the return filing date, then it would be disallowed. Then it would be disallowed. Why this disallowance came? This disallowance came because they wanted to promote compliance. How would I ensure as an income tax authority that you should deduct TDS? Only when I will say, okay, if you will not deduct TDS, expenditure would not be allowed. So that is why this was this allowance was actually made so that people on whom the compliances of TDS fall, they make such particular compliance, follow such particular compliance. Because of non-compliance, if the interest वगैरह तो would be applicable, which is there under TDS section 201. But also at the same time, if you are non-compliant, along with interest, expenditure would also be disallowed. Expenditure would also be disallowed. For example, if I have to make a payment of rent, and TDS was deductible on it, but I did not deduct the TDS. I did not deduct the TDS, then that rent would be disallowed. Now the question comes, why two different sections? One is for the non-resident and one is for payment made to other than, sorry, यहाँ पे non-resident other than non-resident or payment made to resident. The only difference between these two sections are the amount of disallowability. Here, 100% expenditure is disallowed. Here, 30% expenditure is disallowed. So if I am making payment of rent of 5 lakh rupees and I did not deduct the TDS on it, so only 1,50,000 would be disallowed. Only 1,50,000 would be disallowed. Not deducted or deducted but not deposited any. ठीक है, बट इफ आई मेकिंग अ पेमेंट टू नॉन रेजिडेंट, यहाँ पे रेंट नहीं आएगा, रेंट वाला सेक्शन इज नॉट 194I. इफ आई मेकिंग पेमेंट से फॉर 194B or 194E, any such type of expenditure I'm making it to a sports person and I did not deduct the TDS, 100% would be disallowed. Pura ka pura would be disallowed. Another important catch here is that in the year when it is actually deducted and deposited, or if it is deducted and then it is not deposited and later it is deposited, in that year, you will get the deduction. So suppose not getting scored. So suppose for this rent, I had to, this is for previous year, 24-25, 5 lakhs ka rent, okay? But I did not deduct the TDS on it. So what will happen in this particular year, there would be a disallowance of 1,50,000 and I'm filing the return for my assessment year 25-26. Now, suppose on 30th December, I deducted and deposited the TDS for this. So when 30th December 25, so when I'll be filing the return for the previous year 25-26, that is assessment year 26-27, then I can claim the reduction of this 1,50,000 again as a reversal of 40A Got it? So वहाँ पे even if the expenditure is not there, still I will be allowed as deduction. So question can come to you from both perspectives, either on the disallowability or allowability when that expenditure is actually, when that TDS deduction is actually being made. दोनों perspectives से question can come. You have to see that how your P&L would get impact accordingly. Okay. Another thing which you have to remember here is that there is one exception. There is one exception. What is the exception here? They say, okay, the person has not, suppose I am the person जिसका tax auditor, ठीक है? My due date of return filing is 31st October, right? Now, suppose the auditor came and he said, you did not deduct the TDS on this. You did not deduct the TDS on it. But I tell them, okay, I did not deduct the TDS on it, but you know what? The pay, जिसका TDS काटना था, or the deductee, he had to file his return by 31st July. Suppose on the rent part only, okay? He had included this particular income in his return, number one, have paid taxes on it, and is giving me a certificate from CA that all the income on which basically I had to deduct the tax is considered by them. They have deposited the tax on it. They have given exposure, the full disclosure of it in the return, and the certificate is being given to me by CA. Then in that case, disallowance would not be attractive. So this is an exception that if ultimately TDS क्यों काटते हैं? Because government want to know the information and government want to have the taxes timely, right? So if the pay जिसका TDS काटना था, he has filed his return of income and he has shown those particular those particular expenses on which I had to claim the expenditure as his income, and he has paid taxes on it, and his CA has certified that, and I have a form from CA, a declaration, signed declaration from them, then no disallowance will happen for me. Then no disallowance will happen for me. But remember, this should be done before my ITR return filing. Okay? All the things, exception also would apply before the ITR return filing. बाद में तो doesn't matter. अब suppose करो कि बाद में instead of me depositing and deducting and depositing, this person has shown it, then in that year I can claim the expenditure. In that year, I can claim the expenditure. So the sections of provision of section 40AI and 40AIA says that if you're making a payment to resident, or if you're making payment to non-resident, or if you're making payment to resident, you have to deduct tax on those payments on which you are eligible. If you don't deduct tax, then disallowability would be attracted. Or if you deduct tax or do not deposit it by the return filing date, the disallowability would be attracted. Disallowability 100% in case of non-resident payments. 30% in case of resident payments. But if the disallowance happened now in the subsequent year or after the return filing, you actually deducted and deposited it, then in that year it would be reversed and you would be given a reduction for the same. But another exception which works is that if the payee himself shows that particular expenditure which you are claiming as his income, pays the tax on it, if CA certifies it, you get a certificate, then you can be out from the disallowance if all these things happens before your return filing. If all these things are happening after your return filing, then whatever disallowance happened, you can reverse it back in that year. Sorted? Any doubt in section 40AI and 40AIA? No doubt? Mamta? Vignesh? Perfect. Remember, 30% ही है. Do not make 100% disallowances when it comes to your resident. And a lot of questions comes in 40AIA specifically. Next is, I'll pick up here, is in the same line, is disallowability under section 40A 3. बीच में एक आध है, I'm skipping that, 40 clause A sub clause 3. और इसमें क्या, इसमें this is a very typical section. This says that if you're making payment to salaries to either non-resident or to any person outside India, and obviously TDS was deductible, the TDS was deductible and you did not deduct the tax, or you did not deposit the tax, in that case 100% would be disallowed, right? अब आप बोलोगे कि why this is something similar to 40AIA, why there's a different section. First of all, it's only for salaries. Second of all, it is for non-resident or any person who is getting the salary payable outside India. But यहाँ पे the point is no such exception works. No such exception works is that here, though that exception will not work, that payee has shown it as his income and you can get it out of it, number one. Number two, अभी क्या था that you have to deposit that tax till the return filing date. But यहाँ पे there is no return filing date exception also. You have to deduct in timely deduction and timely deposit is very important. If you will not timely deduct and timely deposit, the disallowance would be attracted. अब timely deposit क्या है? By 7th of the next month. Right? By 7th of the next month. Timely deduction is when you're making the payment. Salaries with TDS deducted when you're making the payment. So timely deduction and timely deposit is very important. 7th of the next month, and for the smart salary, it is 30th of April. If you will not make it, disallowance would happen. So no thing would reverse that disallowance. That if you deposit it later, you can claim it as deduction the next year. No such thing is written. So, till the time it is not written in the act, you will not assume it. Okay, just because it is being applicable on some other section does not make it is applicable to this section also. Okay, it is clearly written that if you will not deposit it as per the details given under chapter 17B, which is your TDS ka section, disallowance would be attracted and 100% disallowance would be attracted. ठीक है, तीनों में डिफरेंस समझ आएगा गाइस? Okay, super. Next is एक equalization levy का भी कि equalization levy was deductible and you did not deduct, then also disallowance would be happen and allowance would be done when you will deduct it and deposit it. Very interesting question. इसमें दो questions आते हैं. Very interesting question, Ginny. If TDS deducted but TDS return has not been filed, then also it would be considered as non-payment. Very good question. First of all, the question says about deduction and deposits only. So if you have not deducted or you have deducted or not deposited, if you read the line of section 40A IA or 40AI, as in 40A1 or 40A1A, whatever you want to say, okay, it is clearly written that if it is not deducted or deducted but not deposited before the return filing. So return में अगर कहीं delay है, it will not attract disallowance. It will attract fee as per the TDS provision but not a disallowance. Number one. Number two, कहीं पे भी short deduction भी नहीं लिखा हुआ. If you will clearly see, short deduction के बारे में it's not written. Procedure default, as you said, is not a trigger for no deduction. Similarly, short deduction मतलब मेरे को 10% रेट से काटना था, I deducted 2%. वो भी कहीं पे लॉ में it's not written, if you see, right? So that is also not attracting disallowance. It may attract interest as per the TDS provisions, but it is not attracting disallowances. So both of them are very interesting question. Very good. चले आगे. Perfect. Okay. ये की इश्यूज आते हैं शॉर्ट डिडक्शन या प्रोसीजर फेलियर के. अच्छा, what if the disallowance is of any capital expenditure TDS deduction, suppose 194 IA or maybe even 194A, but it's a capital expenditure, then what will you do? No disallowance would be made. Technically, you cannot revoke those sections. Procedure failures, no disallowances. Very right. Another one under section 48.2, 48.2A. I'll shift your screen there. 1 second. Screen visible? Okay. Now, suppose disallowances of tax payments, any foreign income tax, any wealth tax, any income tax, surcharge, education cess, any interest under Section 234A, 234B, 234C, penalty, or even interest on loan borrowed for payment of income tax. Nothing would be allowed as deduction. All of them gets disallowed under Section 40A, subsection 2A, 40A, clause 2A, sorry, 40A, subclause 2 or subclause 2A. In fact, any foreign taxes also would not be allowed. But yes, foreign tax credit is allowed, but foreign taxes are also not allowed. Clear? Sorted? Next is employer contribution, section 40, clause A, subclause 4, disallowance of the employer contribution to a provident fund. If at the time of withdrawal के टाइम पे of accumulated balance section 192A is attracted. ठीक है, 192A क्या कहता है? If you are withdrawing the balance before 5 years, then it would be taxable and tax has to be deducted under 192A at 10%, right? So if tax was deductible, you did not deduct it, the disallowance would be attracted for the employer contribution under section 40, clause A, subclause 4. Now we move to an important one, which is 40 clause A subclause 5. इसको हम ऐसे पढ़ते हैं. This talks about disallowances on the tax deduction or the tax paid on the non-monetary purposes or the non-monetary salary. Let me explain you how. See, if I'm making payment of 10 lakhs and 4 lakhs to a person, Mr. X. ठीक है? Now for Mr. X, this 10 lakhs is a monetary part which is going in his bank account. This 4 lakhs is the valuation of perquisite, ठीक है? Which as per Indian tax law is to be taxed as salary. Correct? Now, Mr. X is a person who has come from abroad. He does not understand this perquisites वगैरह वाला thing. He says, I don't understand all this thing. I am not paying tax on it. I am ek to coming from abroad to work for you. You're providing me facilities, and on that facilities, I should pay tax. He does not understand this math. And this is very common when global mobility or deployments happen. When people come from abroad or they go for working abroad, this is a very common phenomenon. So employer said, okay, you don't understand this. Whatever facilities which we are providing to you, we will bear the tax on it. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm just writing, suppose on this entire income, the tax is at 10%, say 1,40,000. I'm just writing it for the sake of simplicity. Now in this 1,40,000, 1 lakh, which is 10% of the monetary part, and 40,000 is on the non-monetary part. So 1 lakh is recovered from Mr. X, which is deducted as while making the payment. But this 40,000 is not recovered from Mr. X, but 40,000 government को तो जा रहा है. Section 192 में TDS should be 1,40,000, right? Right. But 1 lakh only I'm able to deduct and pay. Technically क्या होना चाहिए था? As per law, 10 lakh is going into his account. From that, 1,40,000 of tax should be deducted, right? Tax on total salary should be deducted, but he does not understand it. He said, I will only pay tax on my monetary salary. So technically क्या हो रहा है? I'm making payment of 10 lakh in his account and 1 lakh is getting deducted as tax. 4 lakh तो वैसे भी valuation of facilities है as perquisites. Now listen very carefully. Now this 40,000 is about to deposit it to the government. Who is bearing this 40,000? The employer. The employer, the business entity, right? They are paying from their own pocket this 40,000 rupees. Okay. Now listen carefully. In the books of employer, expenditure as salary is this 1 lakh, which is, this 10 lakh, which is the monetary salary, right? Agreed. This 4 lakh, which is the perquisites valuation, agreed. And also this 40,000, which is the tax which this person is bearing, which the employer is bearing. This 40,000 is also is also an expenditure for the entity and it should be taxed as salary. You say, now why this 40,000 is taxed as salary? Because it's a perquisite again. Na? Why this is a perquisite, you will ask? Okay, because I am bearing the taxes which my employer should have borne, right? And any expenditure borne by the employer, which is the duty of the employee, if it is being borne by the employer, it is a perquisite. Agreed. So technically, this 40,000 is also a kharcha for the entity, for the business entity, and technically this is a part of salary. Now in the books of or in the hands of Mr. X also, what is salary income? This 10 lakh, this 4 lakh in his return, okay? Whosoever would be preparing his return. And this 40,000 is also in a perquisite. This is the monetary salary, this is the facility, and this is also a perquisite. Right. But if we will go on this loop of taxing the perquisite again and again, the tax on the perquisite will rise again and again. If I will increase the perquisite value from the tax amount which I am bearing, again interpolation say tax again would rise. And this procedure will go on and on and on. So for this simplification, this said income tax says that okay, the technically this is the thing, but the tax on non-monetary perquisite, which is borne by the employer, we will make it exempt in the hands of employee. So that the calculation should not go on and again and again and again. Because एक बारी perquisite पे tax लगा, वो tax I bear it, again perquisite बढ़ गया, then again tax would be borne. So this we will make it exempt under section 10 CC. ठीक है? One thing. So this is exempt in the hands of Mr. X, as in the employee. But at the same time, we will not give this 40,000 as deduction to the company under section 40, clause A, subclause 5. यहाँ पे भी we are not taxing this tax on non-monetary perquisites in the hand of employee, and here also we will not let them deduct. So this is the exact story. For the sake of simplicity, I've taken the tax amount at 10% for you to understand. But I hope the concept of taxability on non-monetary perquisite is clear. Because nowhere this example comes in your book, and I've seen a lot of people getting confused okay, how these things work, but this is the actual understanding. समझ आया? Take a look at the example so that it is clear. The tax is not, Ginny, the tax is not allowed as deduction to the company. See, simple sa part hai, I bear a certain tax which you had to pay. I am the employer, you are the employee. Okay? Which you had to bear, I paid that tax. Now, bearing the tax is also an act of perquisite. Right? Bearing your any expenditure is a perquisite for you again. But if I will keep on taxing it again and again that I am bearing the expenditure, perquisite amount will again rise, then tax on perquisite will again rise. It will lead to a lot of confusion and a lot of complex calculation. So they said, okay, if the employer is bearing the tax on non-monetary perquisite for the employee, technically that is a perquisite in the hands of employee, which is this 40,000, right? Technically, it is a perquisite because the expenditure is borne by the employer, as in the tax is borne by the employer. But we will not make it a taxable income, we will exempt it. So it is getting exempt in the hands of Mr. X as from the income perspective. This is the expenditure perspective. Now, in the hands of the employer, we will also not give the deduction the benefit. When we are not taxing it in the hands the person in whose hand it should be taxed as an income, we will not give the benefit of this tax which is borne by the employer as a business expenditure to the employer. And this disallowance is attracted under section 40, clause A, subclause 5. बाकी सब taxable है, बाकी सब deductible है. Normal salary is taxable, normal salary is deductible in respectively in the hands of employee and employer. Even perquisites are taxable, but tax or non-monetary perquisite is not getting taxable in the hands of employee, and hence it is not getting deductible in the hands of employer. Now, quickly give a read to all this. You can ignore the state government paying royalty to state government. Not important. You can quickly give a read. एक बारी just give a look for section 40 clause A, all deductions. Then we'll go to section 40 clause B. एक बारी देख लो, कहीं पे भी कुछ कंफ्यूजन है, let me know. Give me a go ahead, students. Perfect. Now we will move to Vignesh, Poonam, Sangeeta, all clear? Very good. Now we'll move to the deduction which is strictly for the firms or your LLP. Firms or LLP, which is in regard to salary paid to partners, etc. Now this is very interesting. Let's begin. See, firm, think yourself as firm, then we'll think yourself as company also, as a partner also. Firm can unnecessarily show any expenditure as expenditure to salary, expenditure to partner in the name of salary, remuneration, commission, bonus, etc. Right? And claim deduction. Right? I can show 10 lakhs paid as salary to my partners and claim deduction. So it was very mandatory to put a ceiling as in a capping limit. Capping limit के access में any salary which is paid, you can pay. It's not said that you cannot pay, but it would not be allowed as deduction. It would not be allowed as deduction. Now, what this particular thing say? First of all, we're talking about interest. Interest on what? Interest on capital. There's no limit on interest on loan taken from the partner, but this is on interest on capital. Interest on capital or salary or bonus or commission or any remuneration, whatever name you want to say. First of all, both these things, if have to be paid, first of all, should only be paid to working partner. There is dormant partner, sleeping partner, unko nahi, working partner. Secondly, it should be as per partnership deed. If it is not written in partnership deed, then you will not give the salary to the partners. You cannot give the salary to partners. And even if income tax allows an amount, you can give the salary to the partner, but it would not be allowed. So partnership deed, income tax and actual payable, सबको साथ में लेके चलना है, ठीक है? Then second, a working partner as per partnership deed. Then another important thing is not prospectively. मतलब पार्टनरशिप डीड में आपने आज मेंशन किया that today, that October onwards I will pay the salary. Partnership deed में it got mentioned today, but you cannot write that this would be effective from January 2020 or something like that. Retrospectively, it would never be allowed. Till from the time it is included in partnership, from that time it will only be allowed. Retrospectively, not allowed. Now, this is the basic thing which you have to remember as per the partnership deed. What about interest का लिमिट? इनकम टैक्स क्या कहते हैं? आई कैन मेंशन दैट आई विल पे इंटरेस्ट टू वर्किंग पार्टनर एट 15%. सो लिमिट क्या कहते हैं? इनकम टैक्स में मैक्सिमम इंटरेस्ट विच वुड बी अलाउड इज 12%. So 12% या partnership deed, whichever is lower would be allowed. So suppose I am paying on the opening capital 4 lakh rupees, pay interest at 40,000 rupees. ठीक है, this अब आपको अमाउंट दिया होगा क्वेश्चन में. Now this is 10%, right? So I cannot allow 4 lakh का 12%, 48,000 as interest. What is as per the partnership deed, or what is actually paid, or the interest as per the income tax, whatever the limit, whichever is lower, that would be allowed. Whichever is lower, that would be allowed. Clear? अब ये चीज हो गया. व्हाट अबाउट सैलरी, बोनस, कमीशन? ये सबका एक ही लिमिट है. देयर इज ओनली वन ब्रैकेट. यू से इट बोनस, यू से इट कमीशन, यू से इट रेम्यूनरेशन, यू से इट सैलरी, whatever name you want to call it as, basic, whatever name you want to call it as. The limits, attention everyone, the limits have been revised from Finance Act 2024. So please pay attention here. The limit says that on the first 6 lakhs, पहले first 3 lakhs होता था, on the first 6 lakhs of book profit, you would be allowed either 3 lakh rupees or 90%, whichever is higher, 90% of book profit, whichever is higher. I'm writing it, I'll explain it. And on the next profit, next part of profit, you will allow as salary as 60%. अब पार्टनरशिप डीड में लिखा है एवरीवन विल गेट 1 लाख रुपीज पर मंथ एज सैलरी, दैट इज रिटन. बट इनकम टैक्स में they have restricted the salary to an extent of book profit, to the extent of book profit, and they've increased this limits. Earlier it was 3 lakh rupees of book profit. So the first 6 lakhs, it is either 3 lakhs or 90% of book profit, whichever is higher. Suppose loss भी है, अगर कंपनी को लॉस आ रहा है, there is no book profit, there is loss, at least 3 lakhs would be allowed. At least 3 lakhs would be allowed. But suppose the profit is of 8 lakh rupees. The book profit is of 8 lakhs rupees. Then on the first 6 lakhs, 90%, which comes to 540. And on the next 2 lakhs of profit, 60%, which comes to 120 rupees. 120 rupees, saying 1,20,000. So total salary allowed as per income tax provision, section 40 clause B, is your 660. Sorry, is 660. अब बुक पार्टनरशिप डीड में लिखा है देयर आर टू पार्टनर्स, एवरीवन विल गेट 1 लाख रुपीज सैलरी. तो 1 लाख पर सैलरी आप 12 लाख दे रहे हो पर पार्टनर, बट and this is for total partners, all partners included. ठीक है, 24 lakhs आप दे रहे हो टू पार्टनर्स को, बट अलाउड कितना है टोटल 6,60,000. दिस इज नॉट पर लिमिट ऑफ द पार्टनर, दिस इज टोटल अलाउड टू द फर्म. ठीक है. अब सपोज करो प्रॉफिट ही 4 लाख रुपीज है, देन व्हाट, 4 लाख का 90% कितना हुआ 360, तो सिर्फ 360 मिलेगा. प्रॉफिट अगर 2 लाख रुपीज है, 2 लाख का 90% 180 होता है, बट 3 लाख तक इट कैन बी अलाउड. गॉट इट? क्लियर? अब यू विल आस्क मैम व्हाट इज दिस बुक प्रॉफिट? This book profit is ultimately the profit as per the income tax provision जो आपने निकाला है, whatever you have computed as a PGBP profit after before considering any salary, that would be your book profit. Big question. If I ask you, tell me the taxability in the hands of partner. A big question partner के perspective से आ गया. He is getting, there are two partners, ठीक है? Sorry. You have to tell me 660 पे question है, ठीक है? Two partners are there, A and B. You have to tell me what is the income taxable under PGBP for Mr. A. Mr. A, ठीक है? He is getting interest on capital of 4 lakh rupees. 40,000. Okay. This is interest on capital. And think carefully. And the salary which he is getting is 1 lakh per month. So you have to tell me what is the income taxable under. I've taken this when I was telling section 28. Taxable in the hands of Mr. A, who is the partner. Would be the income taxable under the head PGBP for Mr. A? Only this is the information given to you, and the 660 is given to you, which is the amount deductible as salary for the firm or in the hands of firm for both the partners. Carefully think and tell. Think. I'm waiting for the answer. Think, think, think. I want everyone to please try. गलत है, सही है, do not worry. Okay. Sangeeta says salary not taxable in the hands of partner. In the hands of partner, 1 lakh will be taxable. Okay, very good attempt. Two answers, different but good that you attempted. Poonam, you want to attempt? So whatever is allowed to firm, that is taxable in the hands of partners. Simple. अभी मैथ्स ऐसे याद नहीं करना, सिंपल सा चीज है. Firm का profit ultimately is the profit of the partners, right? That is divided. Profit पे already tax firm pays, right? So whatever profit comes, उस पे 30% tax is paid and then it is distributed amongst partner. Now profit पे tax is paid, it is not taxable in the hands of partner, because firm has paid tax on it. But while computing this profit, certain deduction which is of interest of partner capital was taken by the firm. Certain deduction on salary was taken by the firm. That means from this profit, interest is reduced, salary is reduced. So whatever is reduced, that means on that part tax is not paid. Correct? On that part, tax is not paid. Whatever is reduced while computing the profit, on that part, tax is not paid. So that part, friends, would be taxable in the hands of respective partner. So whatever is reduced here would be taxable in the hands of respective partner. So whatever interest ka deduction is given, kitna interest ka deduction hai? 40,000. Why? 10% or 12%, whichever is lower. He's getting interest at 10%. So 40,000 ka interest ka deduction firm must have taken. So this 40,000 would be taxable in the hands of partner. Then they are paying salary of 1 lakh, definitely. But what is allowed to the firm? Only 6,60,000. And that too for two partners. So I'm assuming both have given same salary proportionately. Per partner kitna allow hona chahiye? 330. 3,30,000. So 3,30,000 becomes taxable here. Even if Mr. X or Mr. A, whoever in this question, is getting a salary of 1 lakh per month, but what would be taxable? Only 330. You will be like, why? This is wrong. No, firm has already paid tax on it because they were not allowed to claim the expenditure of it. They've already paid taxes on it by disallowing that. Clear? So the logic should be clear. Okay, why what is allowed to the firm is taxable in the hands of partner. Question can come either way, especially a case study can come like this. A case scenario can come like this. And allowability के लिए यहाँ पे you will check 12% or partnership deed, whichever is lower. यहाँ पे भी partnership deed or the income tax limit, whichever is lower, that would be allowed. And only to the working partners. और ये सब कुछ एक capacity as a partner, as a member, they should be allowed. If something is given to them in representative capacity, matlab, I had to pay salary to Mrs. X, but I'm paying it to Mr. X or in his account, does not make, or on behalf of Mrs. X, I'm making it to Mr. X, the partner, does not mean that this salary is paid to the partner, right? He is just receiving on behalf of a person. Got it? Perfect. See, concepts समझोगे, logic समझोगे, you would be able to do the question very easily. Next is same AOP के केस में अगर AOP का कोई क्वेश्चन आता है, anything which is paid to the members would not be allowed. यहाँ वहां पे तो एटलीस्ट पार्टनर्स के केस में there is a limit कि okay this amount that we will pay allowed, but anything of interest, salary, commission, remuneration, anything paid to members is not allowed. Anything paid to members is not allowed at all. By an AOP or BOI to its member is not allowed. Okay, so this is all about section 40 clause A and section 40 clause B. I hope you're confident enough, and now we will move to section 40A in admissibilities. चलिए, overburden तो नहीं हो रहा, समझ आ रहा है, interest is there, relatability is there. Now, apply your tax audit provisions here also. Okay, now section 40A का लाइन शुरू हो रहा है. अब इसमें 40A है, next subsection 2, subsection 3, subsection 7, subsection 9, these are the one which are common one. ठीक है, सबसे common है 40A subsection 3, where the question is always there in the exam. So let's start. First is section 40A subsection 2, which talks about disallowances when the payment is made to relatives and associates. See, nowhere it's written that you cannot make a payment to relative and associates, but it's written that the payment which you're making to your relatives and associates should be as per the fair market value. That means it should be a reasonable expenditure. It should be the legitimate need of the business to do such expenditure. And assessee को क्या benefit हो रहा है from conducting that expenditure, that should be seen. So deduction would only be come into picture when it's a legitimate need and a reasonable expenditure. Now, who will decide this reasonable expenditure? The AO will see whether it is reasonable or not, and then he will ask you to prove it. Now, suppose कोई particular raw material was available in the market at rupees 10 per kg. I am picking up with from one of my relatives, because relatives के साथ you can mold the figures and you can do under the table transactions at 15 per kg and showing the purchase at inflated value, right? So this is wrong. So that 5 per kg would be disallowed under section 40A subsection 2 because it is not as per the fair market value. Legitimate need का example देती हूँ. I am into textile business. अब textile में what are the purchases? The cotton, the silk, or all these stuff. But I have shown purchase of furniture as an expenditure, just because a business expenditure. That is not right, because it can be a depreciable thing, a capital expenditure, but furniture as a raw material is not required anyway. It was not a legitimate need of the business. Or I am showing advertising expenditure in a particular printing magazine of some any irrelevant item which is not even related to my particular business. So anything which is not the need of the business or is not as per the fair market value would attract disallowance. But it should be with any related party or associate. Any related party or associate. A question will come in your mind, who is the related party, who is the associate? ये सिंपल सा चीज है. इंडिविजुअल में the person, the relative is the related party. Company, firm, AOP में कंपनी के केस में डायरेक्टर and their relatives are the related party. फर्म के केस में पार्टनर्स and their relatives are the related party. HF के केस में members and their related are the relatives are the related party or the specified person. AOP के केस में members and their relatives are the related party. But first of all, you will ask him, who are the relatives? So students, एक चीज remember, income tax में every section will have a different meaning of relatives, family, related person, specified person. So you have to stick to the definition here. Section 40A subsection 2 के लिए relatives are spouse, mother, father, brother, sister, or spouse, brother, sister, you can say, and any lenient ascendant or lenient descendant, father, father ka father, and all of that. So those are your related party. Those people are your related party. ठीक है, सिंपल. अब सपोज मिस्टर ए के लिए his sister Mrs. B is a related party. अब Mrs. B कुछ item या कुछ भी, there is a transaction between these two that will come under scrutiny, and that will be assessed that whether it was required for the business or not, and whether it was legitimate for need of the business or not, and whether it is as per the fair market value or not. But suppose Mrs. B is a partner in a firm. Say B Joy Associates. Okay. Now, any transaction between Mr. A and B Joy Associates will also come into picture as an associate transaction for section 48(2). Why? Because when I told you directors and relatives of individual, partners and relatives, that is, they are related party. But at the same time, if either the individual or the relatives or them combined have in any concern a substantial interest, that concern also will become an associate. Will become an associate for section 48 subsection 2. So since Bijoy associate mein Mrs. B was a partner, and I'm assuming the partner, she was a 50% partner, B and Joy. Okay. So since Mrs. B, that is the relative, have a substantial interest in Bijoy associate, Mr. A and Bijoy associates में अगर कल को कोई transaction होती है, that would come under scrutiny of section 48 subsection 2. Got it? Either Mr. A himself has a substantial interest, or relatives have a substantial interest, or Mr. A and the relative combined have a substantial interest. But what is substantial interest? Substantial interest is when in an entity you hold either 20% of the voting power or 20% of the share in profits. That is substantial interest. अब suppose करो Mrs. B is a 30% shareholder in a company called Boy Limited. Okay. Now, Boy Limited में, if Mrs. B is a 30% shareholder of Boy Private Limited में, so Mr. A and Boy Private Limited में again any transaction would come, that would also be 48(2). So paper में the facts would be given to you. There would be two transactions between the SSC and one concern. You have to see whether that concern is a concern where substantial interest is established. If it is established, it is a related party, and then you will see whether the transaction is at fair market value or not, or if it is at fair market value, then fine. If it is not at fair market value, disallowance will come as per 48(2). So first step for 48(2) is to establish that there is a related party or an associate concern or not. Second is to see whether it is fair market value or not, or legitimate or not. Simple. ठीक है? अगर holding subsidiary are related party, holding की subsidiary and then subsidiary की another subsidiary are related party, all of them together. Sorted? Any doubt in 48(2)? नहीं? Perfectly clear? Okay, now we move ahead to 40A subsection 3. This is very interesting. As in fact, most of the questions you can do now onwards because all the allowances and disallowances mostly are covered. Small things are left. That would is not a concern. Hmm. Next is a major disallowance, which is disallowances in relation to cash payments. But as I told you, to understand it, I will say cash payments. But to write in an exam, you will say in any mode other than you will use this language. Okay? Otherwise than by an account paid check, you will not write in exam since it was a cash payment because you will write it was done in any mode other than account paid check, account paid bank draft, use of electronic clearing system or prescribed electronic modes or prescribed electronic modes where UPI and all that stuff is there. Credit card, debit card. Paper may I will come specifically at you if you write cash payment, just to make you understand this is cash payments. And cash payments or bearer check or cross checks. Account pay checks, where you double cross it and not parallelly draw lines and write AC, that is account pay check. Okay, so this is one such section to disallow cash payments. Practically, I know practically लोग क्या करते हैं, they show transaction on different days. So if per day to one person you are making an expenditure at a price or at a through cash for 10 more than 10,000, not 10,000, for more than 10,000, then there would be a disallowance under section 40A subsection 3. ये सबका favorite section है. ठीक. But this limit is of 10,000 की जगह it is 35,000 when you are making payment to any plying, hiring or leasing good carriage industry. So if you are making a payment to transporter, then the limit is 35,000. उनको मैं 35,000 in cash दे सकती हूँ. Reason is because transport industry is very disorganized industry. Drivers को you have to pay and they don't accept other modes. So that's why the limit is 35,000. General limit 10,000. Payment to transporters 35,000. And I don't have to see aggregate cash payment. I have to see single party ko single day में if it is crossing 10,000 or not. Simple. Someone asked him, ma'am, whether loan payment is covered here. See, this provision does not apply to loan because loan does not constitute revenue expenditure, which is deductible. So if loan repayment is that is governed by your section 269 ST. वहां पे you will see whether it is getting hit or not. But loan repayment would not come under 48.3. Confusion के लिए question can be given to you. Please बड़ा write कि loan repayment is not part of section 48.3. हाँ. Interest on loan that is being paid into cash, that would come under this part. That would be covered under this part. Advance payment आएगा. Advance payment. Whether advance payment will come for disallowance. Think. Guys, this is my question to you all. Advance payment would come here. Yes, no. Suppose I'm making someone an advance cash payment of 20,000. Goods मुझे next year मिलेंगी. 29th March को I've made a 20,000 का advance cash payment. What will happen? Very good, Vignesh. Definitely, if it will attract disallowance, even if it is an expenditure of next year, but it will attract disallowance this year itself. Okay. Another thing which is clearly given in your book, and let me explain you that. Is payment made by commission agents. अब commission agents क्या करते हैं? They take payment from me. Okay, he's say Mr. A is my commission agent. He's making this payment to someone, say someone else, and picking up goods on my behalf. Okay. Now, whatever cash payment he is making, if even if it is more than 10,000, even if it is more than 10,000, would not attract disallowance, because ultimately the cash payment which he is making is not his expenditure. It is my expenditure only. He's doing it just on my behalf. He's doing just on my behalf, right? So, jab that particular expenditure is not deductible for him, then even if he's making it in cash, does not matter. Him making it in cash does not matter. Similarly, someone asked me, ma'am, we are paying tax as per presumptive taxation. Presumptive taxation you will study in the next class, where only a percentage of profit is considered as income. There is no such question of all these things. Whether 48(3) disallowance would be attracted or not. Where you are paying tax on a direct flat rate of profits, whether 48(3) disallowance would attract, it will not attract. It will not get attracted because it's a flat rate computation. Very good. ठीक है. उसके अलावा you have to remember one very important part here is section 48(3)(a). Now suppose an adjustment question can come to you on this. I claimed an expenditure of electricity expenses, ठीक है, 20,000 or say 25,000 electricity expenses payable of 25,000 when I was closing my books for financial year 23-24. Previously 23-24, and nowhere it's written that to claim electricity expenditure you have to pay it before return filing. नहीं, वो खाली कुछ expenditure के लिए it is written, right? So I claimed while filing the return, I claimed this particular expenditure also, 25,000. But when I actually paid this 25,000 in financial year 24-25, I paid this 25,000 in cash. Now, as per section 48, subsection 3A, this would be a disallowance for previous year 24-25, even if you have claimed an expenditure in separate year. But since you made the payment this year and you did not follow the provisions of section of this 10,000 rupees, this 25,000 would be disallowed in this year return itself. It would be disallowed in this year return. Sorted? This is section 48(3)(a). Adjustment can come and you have to disallow, you have to add 25,000 back. I've written negative, you have to add it basically in the profits. Okay. But apart from this, friends, there are certain exceptions. Certain exceptions, that means rule 6DD, which is a part of your 40A3, gives certain exception that even if you're making cash payment of more than 10,000 to a single person in a single day, still we will allow that payment. Still we will allow that payment. That means still we will allow that expenditure. We will not disallow it. It is when you're making payment to government entities like Reserve Bank, State Bank of India, corporation banks, or any primary agriculture society, whenever you're making payment to them or you're making payment to the government, that would be allowed. Secondly, when you're making payment by, see, mode में लिखा हुआ है electronic clearing system or prescribed electronic modes, right? But if you're making payment through adjustment of book entry, I had to pay Sangeeta 50,000 rupees. Sangeeta had to pay 20,000 rupees to me. We adjusted a book entry. That does not mean that 20,000 has been paid through other than prescribed electronic modes. It's a book entry, it is allowed. Similarly, if it is paid by bill of exchange or through telegraphic transfer, which is not very common these days, or through a letter of credit, the amount has been set off. It is not an issue. It is not an issue. Excess, अब बैंक ने आपको पेमेंट करनी थी, I supplied the goods against you. That is also allowed. That is also allowed. Similarly, when I'm making the payment to the cultivator, grower, producer of such articles, stuff. Which articles? any agriculture produce, any forest produce, any animal husbandry or poultry livestock वगैरह के लिए, fish वगैरह के लिए, horticulture, apiculture is of that bees. ठीक है, इन सब के लिए when the cultivator को direct payment is going, then I can make this payment in cash. So basically these people do not accept any other mode. So that's why if I'm purchasing agriculture produce from the from the cultivator itself, I can make him payment in cash of any amount. That would not be disallowed. That would not be disallowed. But purchasing agriculture produce from APMC or from any mandi, that would not come under this because it is directly paid to the cultivator. Only that would come. Only that would come. Or I'm purchasing goods from any cottage industry, then I can make payment in cash because cottage industries are those industries will operate at very low level and generally they do not have the help of power. They work without electricity. Okay? Or I'm making payment anywhere where in that village or town there is no bank allowed. That would be allowed. If I'm making any retirement benefits payment up to 50,000, that is allowed to an employee. That is allowed. If I'm making payment of salary to a person who has been temporarily posted on a ship or into any place where there is no bank account, I can make a payment. So you will see all these are very genuine situations. All these are very genuine situations. And if I'm making payment to my agent who is to do all the such cash payments which we have discussed, that is allowed. Or if I'm making payment to any authorized dealer, अब authorized dealer को तो currency cash में देना पड़ेगा to get the money, right? So that is allowed. That is allowed. He will take cash only with me to give me foreign exchange. That is allowed. Simply these are the common allowabilities under Rule 60D. So exceptions are given under Rule 60D. Section 48.3 talks about the disallowabilities. Ginny, see, if you will read the section, it says payment otherwise through prescribed electronic modes. And prescribed electronic modes में ये सब आते हैं. किसी को नेट बैंकिंग करना, डेबिट कार्ड, क्रेडिट कार्ड से देना, IMPS, UPI, RTGS, भीम ऐप से देना, आधार पे से देना, NEFT. All of these are your prescribed electronic modes. ठीक है? So if you're making payment through them, they are not to be considered as paid in cash. Anyone has any doubt? This is a very interesting section and very relatable again. So 40 capital A में subsection 2 is about related party, subsection 3 is about cash payment. Now आने वाले section is something which you all have read. They are just उनका allowability you have read in section 36, उनका disallowability we are studying in section 40A. Next is disallowance in respect of gratuity. See, first of all, if I'm making any provision for gratuity, यहाँ पे कौन से disallowances आएंगे? Any provision for gratuity, friends, is disallowed. See, when I'm making payment to any approved gratuity fund, that is allowed under section 36 subsection 1. Or if I'm making actual gratuity payment, कि कोई retire हुआ और उनका actual gratuity था, that is allowed. But if I'm just creating a provision, friends, that is disallowed under section 40A subsection 7. So gratuity payment allowed under section 36 1 clause 5, but gratuity provision is disallowed. It's either it should be money is diverted to an approved gratuity fund or it should be actually paid. Otherwise, it would be disallowed. Similarly, 49 में क्या आएगा जो हमने एग्जांपल पढ़ा था NPS के केस में भी. See, NPS के केस में up to 14% of salary or actual contribution is allowed, whichever is lower. So what amount which is not allowed comes part of your section 40A subsection 9. So any allowance of employed contribution goes to section 36 subsection 1 clause 4, clause 4A and clause 5. Any disallowance comes under section 40A subsection 9. Mark to market loss only as per ICDS is allowed. So if it is not allowed, it is disallowance, and disallowance is under section 48, subsection 13. Okay? Sorted. So we are covered with section 40A also. Okay. Everybody quickly go through the look, give a look, and if there is any doubt, let me know. I'll quickly take it up. We clear? Any doubt? चले आगे? Sure. So अभी तक what all we have done? We have done section 36, सारे allowances, section 37, section 40, clause A, and section 40A, उसके disallowances. ठीक है? So since I want you to do questions now full-fledged, so I'm picking up last topic जिसके बहुत common questions आते हैं, which is section 43B. There is 41, 42, 43C and all that. We will do it, but we'll do it in the next class. उससे direct questions ऐसे नहीं आते. ठीक है? So we will pick up directly section 43B. ये हमने बहुत सारी जगह respectively we have covered up, but now we will do it all together, and इसमें one MSME से related there is a very important point which we'll pick up, which will take 5 minutes. उसके अलावा we'll wrap it up. ठीक है? So अगर कोई किसी का question है, pending है, कुछ भी है, just let me know quickly. नहीं है? Actually, okay. Now, some expenditure students are allowed. See, वैसे you can maintain your books on accrual basis, okay? You can maintain your books on mercantile basis, you can maintain your book on cash basis, whatever thing. You have to follow one approach. A mercantile basis is like you have accruing expenses. No one is coming and see that whether you have paid it or not. But then that is wrong. Now I can show any number amount of expenses as payable and not actually paid, right? Not actually paid. So government came up with a list of sections that, okay, if you are showing it as expenditure, very good, but we will allow you only when you will make an actual payment for it before the return filing, before the due date of return filing. And if you will not pay it, then there would be a disallowance. If you will not pay it, there would be a disallowance. Of electricity expenses payable does not come under this list, technically. But what comes under this list should be paid by the due date of return filing. Now, as a tax auditor, you will go to the payable list and you will see what all expenditures are there or what all items are there as standing payable. If those expenditures are from this list, you will disallow them. And this works otherwise also from exam perspective. Now, 43B में what all are covered here? Simply tax, duty, cess or fee. Any tax, अब कौन सा tax होगा? Direct tax तो वैसे भी you cannot claim it. वैसे भी not allowed. What taxes we are talking here? The indirect tax which you will be claiming. If it is payable till the due date of return filing, it would not be allowed. Achha, all these expenditure, if paid, whenever actual paid, they would be allowed in that year. Even if कोई relation नहीं है, still it would be allowed. Suppose taxes were not payable till my due date of return filing, which is 31st October. I paid the taxes on 30th December. So in the previous year, 24-25 per return, it would be allowed as expenditure. So whenever you are attempting a question, your mind should not only rush on disallowance. Your mind should also run on a subsequent allowance which can come into picture. Or subsequent allowance का impact कहाँ आएगा? Section 43B, Section 40A, IA and IB. When later after the return filing, you are rectifying that expenditure or basically deducting that TDS or depositing that TDS, then you get that allowance. So the question can come in both ways. So you have to be very strict, just not on the current year, but also if any preceding year data is given to you. Next, he हमने already पढ़ लिया when we were doing section 36 that employer contribution to approved funds like Provident fund, superannuation fund or gratuity fund should be paid before return filing date. Employee contribution should be paid by the due date of the fund, which is 15th of the month, next month, Provident fund ka specifically. Employer contribution to approved fund. See, employer contribution to unrecognized fund or unapproved fund is anyway not allowed. What is allowed is approved funds. So approved funds के साथ साथ you have to check that whether they are actually paid till the return filing date or not. Next is bonus or commission. ये भी हमने पढ़ा था section 36 में that bonus and commission should actually be paid before the return filing. Interest on loan, ये भी we studied that interest on loan or borrowings from public financial institutions, state financial corporations, state industrial corporations, interest on loan from NBFCs or any scheduled banks. पहले NBFCs नहीं था, they have included it. So basically any interest on loan taken from all of these, if is not paid till the return filing date would be disallowed and would be allowed when it is actually paid. Any leave encashment which is standing due, leave encashment payable if it is standing due, not other salary payable है allow हो जाएगा. But if any leave encashment which is standing due, that would be disallowed if not paid. Similarly, if you have to pay any amount to the Indian Railways for using their assets, if you have not paid it, that would be disallowed. Simple. अब आप बोलोगे कि रेलवे एसेट्स यूज करने के लिए होगा, कार्गो कंपनीज होंगी who are using railways for transportations, right? So they have to pay railways amount. If railways ko they will not pay the amount, that would be disallowed. Why it is given? So that railways ko dues timely मिल जाए. They can timely recover the dues. Simple. अब एक adjustment आई which changed all of these things. Let's okay, before that, Ginny and everyone see, suppose PF के केस में there is employer contribution and there is employee contribution. Employee contribution if it is not paid by 15th of the next month, जैसे अप्रैल का contribution 15th of May तक नहीं गया, it would be disallowed. Then and there, it does not matter कि आपने उसे 16th अगस्त को दे दिया, within the previous year pay कर दिया या return filing date से पहले you paid. If it is not paid within the due date of the fund, it is disallowed. But employer contribution का pay होना is important till the time of due date of the ITR filing of the SSE, not of the employee, of the SSE जिसका business expenditure है. If that is done, it would be allowed. Okay, so in any way, if you have missed the deadline of 15th of the month, so employee contribution तो definitely disallow हो जाएगा. But employer contribution you can save by paying it before return filing. Sorted, Ginny? Anyone has any other doubt? What is the change I'm talking again and again? Before going to that change, I was talking about interest only. Interest on loan था, it was payable. Okay. Interest on loan of say 4 lakh rupees was payable. अब इस interest on loan को मैंने एक loan भी बना लिया. I went to the bank, I said, okay, I cannot pay this 4 lakh in one go. Help me making it a loan. So they said, okay, pay this 4 lakh in 10 installments of 40,000 each. Now, just because this 4 lakh is converted into a loan does not mean a repayment has happened, right? Just because the interest which was payable is now converted into another liability does not make it as an actual payment. So when I'm actually paying these installments, then I can claim them as actual reduction, right? Then only I can claim it as actual reduction. So whatever is being paid till the return filing date of these installments, that would be allowed. Whatever is not paid would be disallowed, and when they would be paid would be allowed. Sorted? Now, one thing which changed the understanding was your, where is this? 43B clause H, which is written separately. Because abhi tak kya tha 43B mein? If not made till the return filing date, would be disallowed. If made till the return filing date, would be allowed. Right? And if it is made after the return filing date, then it would be allowed as expenditure in the year when it is actually paid. Right? But there is a separate logic when it comes to 43B clause H. This is a newly introduced clause which was introduced in the last Finance Act, not this Finance Act, but in the last Finance Act. Now, this intention, pehle batati hu, why this clause was inserted. This was one such move by the government so that the MSME entities can get timely payments, timely dues unko mil jaye. So, isliye parties who had to pay dues to MS enterprise. वैसे तो Act is MSME Act, Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Development Act, MSME Act, but here we are talking payments to only micro and small entities. Okay, इसमें medium enterprises are not covered. Only micro and small enterprises are covered. Who are micro enterprises? जिनका either turnover is up to 5 crore or gross investments is up to 1 crore. Similarly, who are small enterprises? जिनका either turnover is up to 50 crore or investment in plant and machinery is up to 10 crore. Okay. Now, if you are not making payments to these micro small entities as per the timeline written not in the income tax, but as per the timeline written under section 15 of the MSME Act, then this allowance would be attracted. It does not matter whether you're making payment before the return filing date or not. यहाँ पे नहीं है return filing date. Please listen carefully. There's no return filing date का question here. What matter is that if you are making payment till the time mentioned in section 15 of the MSME Act, fine. If you're not making the payment, it would not be allowed as expenditure of that year. It would not be allowed as expenditure of that year. A question आपके mind में आएगा कि what is this section 15 of MSME Act says? So section 15 of MSME Act says that you have to make payment as per the terms of contract. You have to make the payment within the timeline written in the contract. So suppose there is this entity, say X Limited, and there is this a micro entity. Micro entity sold some goods to X Limited. Okay. Now X Limited has to make the payment within the terms of contract. If the term of contract says contract में clearly लिखा है, bill पे clearly लिखा है कि you have to make payment within 20 days, then you have to make payment within 20 days. If it is written 30 days, then you have to make payment within 30 days. But at no point, this particular payment can go beyond 45 days. At no point this particular payment can go beyond 45 days. So ये नहीं है कि contract में आपने 2 months लिख दिया तो 2 months apply हो जाएगा, नहीं, then 45 days apply होगा. So either the time written in the contract or if the time exceeds 45 days, then not beyond 45 days. ठीक है? और अगर आप बोलोगे contract ही नहीं है मैम, then what is the, if no contract, then the payment has to be done within 15 days. 15 days from the execution of contract. Okay? If no contract, within 15 days. If contract, then what is written in contract, but not beyond 45 days. If you have not made payment within these timelines, no return filing period has to be seen. 43B ka clause H is an exception. Not an exception, is a different part which says you have to pay within these timelines. If I do not pay within these timelines, disallowance, clear disallowance. You will make it beyond these timelines. So whenever you are making the payment in that year, you will get. अब वो return filing period आया है, नहीं आया है, does not matter. See, बाकी cases में you see that actual return filing date तक you are making the payment, due date तक you are making the payment or not. If made payment, fine. If not made payment, fine. Then if made payment later after the due date, it becomes a allowable expenditure after for the next year, basically, right? Here, the concept changes. Here, you have to make the payment within those 45 days or the contract period, whichever is earlier, or if no contract, within 15 days, or if no contract, within 15 days. And if you don't make the disallowability deduction. Now let's take an example here. One by one, we'll pick up an example. Let's say the date of execution of contract or date of supply is 30th of March 2024. Okay. And credit period is given 30 days. अब टेक्निकली कब तक पेमेंट हो जानी चाहिए एज पर सेक्शन 15 ऑफ MSMED एक्ट 30 days, which is, if you will count days by days, it would come to 28th of April 2024. 28 days or 31, I say 28, 29, sorry. नहीं 28 अप्रैल ही आएगा क्योंकि एक दिन पहले तक है ना आप कवर कर अब सपोज करो एक्चुअल पेमेंट हैपेंड ऑन 30th of April 2024. Now tell me whether expenditure would be allowed or disallowed. It would be disallowed, but it would be allowed as deduction in which year? In which year? In previous year 24-25 per return and not in previous year 23-24, because the moment you skip this timeline, it becomes a disallowable expenditure. The moment, very good Ojajini, you skip this timeline, it becomes a disallowable expenditure. एक और example लेते हैं. Okay. Date of supply is 25th of March 2024. See, problem पता है इन questions में कब आएगी? When years are getting changed. Otherwise, अगर आपने 31st March तक पेमेंट कर दोगे, it will not impact. ठीक है, अभी देखो 25th of March, ठीक है, credit period decided is 60 days. So as per section 15, what should be the due date for making payment to micro, medium, small enterprises? It would be, if you will calculate 45 days, it will fall on 8th May or 9th May. ठीक है, 8th May 2024. अब आपने actual payment करा on 1st May 2024. Suppose पहले कर दो, मतलब time से कर दिया. So will it be allowable? Yes, it would be allowable. For which year expenditure? For previous year 23-24 में ही allowed हो जाए. Because within the due date pay कर दिया, so it is an allowable expenditure for this date. Next example लेते हैं, ठीक है? 20th March 2024. No, there is no contract, no agreement. तो कितना days होते हैं guys? 15 days. 15 days. So this will come to 3rd April 2024. You made the actual payment on, sadly, on 4th April or 4th May 2024. You missed the deadlines. तो ये किस year का expenditure बन जाएगा? Previous year 24-25 का. So hence it would be disallowed in this case. और अगर एडवांस पेमेंट मिलेगा तो फिर तो कोई इशू नहीं है, तब तो आपने पेमेंट कर ही दिया, अक्रूवल बेसिस पे अलाउ हो जाएगा. ठीक है, you can make note of this example, take a screenshot, write it on your book so that this is 100% sorted. So that's it from my side today. We have covered all the common important sections which come in exam, and I hope you enjoyed today's class because I really did. I love teaching specifically section 36, 40, 48, 43B because these are very common and tax audit. I know you people must have gone through it. So if any feedback, any questions, please let me know. I'm still here. Thank Thank you so much, Ginny. Now I think you can do most of the questions, most of the illustration, and all the case laws also can be completed. Anything related to 43A, etc., you can give it a miss. Otherwise, all things can be easily completed. Read everything page by page. Full-fledged questions also you can do. All case laws still 17 number are completed. ये अच्छे से पढ़ के आना. Next class थोड़ा सा theoretical होगा again because there are theoretical provisions of tax audit, maintenance of books, etc., etc. So that can be a bit theoretical, but it would also be fun and interesting. Sorted? Mamta? All clear? Vignesh? Any doubt? Poonam? Sangeeta? Everything sorted? Perfect. So wish you guys all the best. See you in the next class. Have a good night. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Good night.